Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the special meeting of the Santa Clara City Council. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our statement of values? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and the will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice for all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please be seated. City Clerk.
Councilmember, Board Member Gonzalez.
Present.
Vice Mayor, sorry. Councilmember, Board Member Shahal.
Present.
Councilmember, Board Member Hardy.
Present.
Councilmember, Board Member Park.
Here.
Councilmember, Board Member Jane.
Here.
Councilmember, Board Member Cox.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Gilmore.
Here.
Thank you. The AB 23 announcement. Members of the Santa Clara Stadium Authority, Sports and Open Space Authority, and Housing Authority are entitled to receive $30 for each attended meeting. Statement of behavioral standards. The City of Santa Clara has adopted a code of ethics and values and behavioral standards for public meetings to promote and maintain the highest levels of conduct. This includes mutual respect, robust discussion, and allowing city business to be done in an efficient and consistent manner. Please note that as the presiding officer, the mayor's and chair's direction in matter of process and decorum should be followed, and that use of the gavel indicates all conversations must conclude, and everyone in attendance should come to order and attention. Welcome and thank you for your participation. For those joining us this evening in the capacity of a registered lobbyist, we ask you to please identify yourself as such and disclose the clients and/or organizations that you represent. This is pursuant to City Code Section 2.155.110. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone, and welcome. For today's meeting, the council's back in person and is conducting its meeting in a hybrid manner. The public is welcome to attend in person, and the city continues to use a Zoom feature to allow participation from your home or office. Members of the public can still join via the link and or call into the Zoom meeting phone number shown on the screen now. If you would like to speak on an agenda item or during public presentations, please raise your hand on the Zoom application or press *9 on your phone. Please only raise your hand while the item you're seeking to speak on is presented. Staff will enter your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number, and I will call on you to speak. As a friendly reminder, members of the public have 2 minutes to speak on an agenda item. Prior to each agenda item, staff will lower your hand to ensure members of the public are seeking to speak on the appropriate agenda item. So we'll move on to the council agenda now. Next, we have reports of action taken in closed session. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple items to report out on. First of all, on January 7th, 2026, Council met on both items 1A and 1B. I reported out on item 1A at the council meeting, but item 1B did not occur until after the regular open council meeting had adjourned. So I do want to report out that council met in conference with labor negotiators as listed with respect to the IBEW 1245 Unit 3. However, there was no reportable action. Council also met yesterday in closed session on an item as listed on the agenda, threat to public services or facilities, both with respect to the city and the stadium authority. The consultations with security officials is as listed on the agenda with a couple of amendments. Assistant Chief Wahid Kazem also was in attendance at that meeting, as was Assistant City Manager Araceli Acevedo. There was no reportable actions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, City Attorney. So we're going to move on to the next item, which is our consent calendar. We have one item on the consent calendar. It's approved with one motion of the City Council. Is there anyone on the council dais or in the public that would like to pull that consent calendar item for discussion? All right, seeing none, Councilmember Hardy.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Hardy, second by Vice Mayor Gonzalez to approve the consent calendar. When you're ready, City Clerk. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have our only other item on the agenda tonight, public hearing, general business. Item number 2, discussion and possible actions on a city council statement related to Super Bowl safety and affirmation of support for immigrant communities and policy regarding immigration enforcement activities within the city of Santa Clara. City Manager, why don't you kick us off?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council, and the public, both here and those attending remotely. We have a PowerPoint presentation tonight. I will do this in concert with your City Attorney, Glenn Guggens, and the item the Mayor has already read. But it is a discussion and possible action on a City Council statement as well as a proposed policy. Let's talk through the components of our agenda for this item. It will begin with a staff presentation. We will start with background. Council, I know you've had a number of updates over the last 2.5, really 3 years, but we will take some time to do a little review because we know a number of members of the public are joining this conversation for the first time today. We then will talk about existing state and regional laws. We will discuss the draft statement. We will also talk about recent policies that have been adopted by Bay Area cities related to immigration enforcement. We will next talk about a draft policy, and our city attorney will step us through that. There are potential other items for consideration tonight. We did receive a letter earlier tonight from Vice Mayor Gonzalez and District 6 Council Member Kelly Cox, and so there are components in there that I know the City Council will discuss, and then a recommended action for you tonight. We then will proceed through the normal process of City Council agenda items where we will have City Council questions on the presentation. Next, we will have public comment, and then we will have City Council deliberation and final action. And so with our presentation, a little background. So why are we here today, right? We all know that Santa Clara is hosting Super Bowl 60, and the game will occur at our very own Levi Stadium on this coming Sunday, February 8th. The teams arrived this past Sunday. We all know that opening night was last night, and the Pro Bowl is actually occurring this evening, I think, as we speak. I also got a report just before coming up here that our hotel occupancy is higher than it was for Super Bowl 50. We are currently trending at 97% occupancy, and it was 90% 10 years ago. And I think, as we can all see, the city is abound with activity. Our Emergency Operations Center opened yesterday. Important to know that it is fully operational. And staff is here tonight to support your policy deliberations. However, know that our core operational posture has shifted away from planning and preparation, and our primary mission now focuses on security for all residents, businesses, and all the members of the visiting public that will be coming to and that are already within Santa Clara. Next, we also know that the city will be hosting 6 FIFA World Cup matches from June 13th through July 1st of this year. We, as we all know, are the only city ever to host both the Super Bowl and the World Cup in a single year. And there are 16 host cities across North America, 2 in Canada, 3 in Mexico, and 11 jurisdictions within the United States. Since 2023, the city and the Stadium Authority staff have been working with the Bay Area Host Committee, the 49ers, and other key partners to plan and implement the necessary services to support these major events. We all know the other partners include the NFL, our 49ers, who also serve as the management company for Levi Stadium, as well as FIFA and other allied partners that we will talk about. It's also important to note that over these 3 years, the city has negotiated funding agreements, participated in various public safety trainings. We also attended, a select number of staff attended 2 programs related to Super Bowl. One was a visiting public safety officer program, and the other was a feature host city program. And the NFL has a program that for the prior 2 Super Bowls, they allow staff and public safety officers to really witness everything it takes to pull off the Super Bowl. And so, as you know, we had staff both in Las Vegas and New Orleans for a short period of time. Also, as we talk tonight, it's important to take a moment to talk about key entities. And so, of course, there's the city of Santa Clara where Levi Stadium is located. Important to note that the city is the lead public safety agency for all Super Bowl activities occurring in Santa Clara. And we also have a heavy role in permitting. Council knows that over the last few weeks, we have had staff frankly working every day of the week, overtime and oftentimes at night, reviewing, approving, and inspecting all of the work for the Super Bowl Village that is now fully constructed, but has been going up. The city also is, the city council sits as the Stadium Authority Board for the Santa Clara Stadium Authority. The Santa Clara Stadium Authority, important to note, is the owner of Levi Stadium, a public entity. Also, we will discuss the Bay Area Host Committee. Important to note that the Bay Area Host Committee is a nonprofit organization, frankly, that is intensely focused on bringing major sporting events to the Bay Area. They're the official regional host organization for both Super Bowl and FIFA World Cup. Next, we have the NFL and FIFA that are owners of the 2 major events that we're talking about. There are a number of other partners, and we will step through a few of them now. We have all of our federal partners that have been working in collaboration with the city, the Stadium Authority staff, as well as the Bay Area Host Committee. And we will spend a little bit more time talking about all of our federal partners and the work that they do. We also have partners at the state. Many departments of the state have been engaged in this effort over the last few years. Cal OES, the Governor's Office of Emergency Services, as well as the CHP. We have regional partners. Important to note that we are one of the smallest cities with a major NFL stadium. And so not just a Super Bowl, we rely on regional partners for every event at Levi Stadium. And so that is local municipalities up and down the Bay Area, but also in the Central Valley. Additionally, there are a number of transit agencies like VTA, Caltrain, that we rely on and have been working intently with. Next, it's important to talk about the Super Bowl in particular as a safety event. The Super Bowl has always been classified as a SEER 1 event, a special event assessment rating that is provided by the Department of Homeland Security. This designation really is the second highest, frankly second only to what's called a national special security event, and an example of that is a presidential inauguration. There's an assessment done by DHS that methodology factors in the threat, vulnerability, as well as the consequences of a major incident occurring at the event. And when you have a SEER level rating of 1, it really requires intense cooperation with federal agencies, the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, THS, to secure the stadium as well as the surrounding area. Also important to note that our public safety staff, led by the Santa Clara Police Department, have been coordinating in frankly just about every area. And so what's up on the screen right now is just a few of the areas that we have focused on over the last 3 years: human trafficking, tactical response, traffic and parking, fire suppression, cybersecurity, aviation, escorts, emergency management, finance, critical infrastructure, transit, credentialing, et cetera. And so we have prepared for every possible potential threat, as well as all the logistics that are needed to undertake Super Bowl. And frankly, even though we are now in an execution mode for Super Bowl, work is also continuing to occur on our preparations for FIFA World Cup. So let's talk a little bit about specifically why we are here tonight. We all know that recent federal immigration enforcement activities across the country have created concerns both locally and nationally. In your packet tonight, attachment 1 includes a number of concerns that you have received from members of the public. And so we went through and scanned the city system over the last few months and included all of those for your reference and the community's reference tonight. Additionally, fears of immigration enforcement connected to the Super Bowl events have been elevated. I think we all know that as we've sat in the Bay Area over the last few weeks. Additionally, at your very last meeting on January 27th, all members of the City Council that were present, a 6-0 vote, voted unanimously to approve and agendize the item that we are discussing tonight, and you called for this special meeting. At that meeting, you directed that the meeting be scheduled for, important note, potential action on safety protocols that were reflective of the community requests, as well as policies that other cities have adopted. And so you have that in your packet tonight. I've already mentioned that attachment 1 includes comments that we received from the community. And so over the past week, just want to take a moment to note a number of things that have occurred. Since your meeting just last Tuesday, city staff convened a meeting with DHS as well as other key stakeholders to confirm that there is no planned ICE immigration enforcement associated with any events at Super Bowl 60. Important to note that there was also a press conference earlier today, the NFL's annual security press conference, where that was repeated, and a scan of local news articles from the Washington Post to Fox News, Rutgers, are all now reporting what was said at the 8:30 a.m. press conference today, that there is no ICE immigration enforcement planned for any events connected to the Super Bowl here in Santa Clara or across the Bay Area region. A significant change in that we did not know publicly when we met here last week. The City Council also held a closed session just last night, as the City Attorney mentioned. At that closed session, you received information on safety and security concerns and were able to ask questions around safety and security plans that, of course, are not public. But we did schedule that so that you had that opportunity. I've mentioned the annual press conference that occurred earlier today, as well as in preparation of the materials that you have before you, staff reviewed policies that were adopted in other jurisdictions. We prepared a draft statement for your consideration and a draft policy that we will talk about in just a little bit. And lastly, as I mentioned, we have activated the city's Emergency Operations Center. Also important to note that emergency operations centers across the region are active in San Jose, Palo Alto, as well as in the East Bay. It's important as we begin this conversation also to set a little context around existing legislation that is active in Santa Clara and frankly has been active for quite some time. And so one of them is Senate Bill 54, also referred to as the California Values Act. Important to note that that went into effect January of 2018. It has withstood a legal challenge. It prohibits law enforcement from engaging in immigration enforcement or cooperating with federal immigration enforcement except in very defined circumstances. That has always been the operational posture of the Santa Clara Police Department, even before this was adopted, and that remains today. It also affirms long-standing practices where local government does not inquire or provide services based on immigration status. Further, it's also important to note, and is attached, and I know was sent to the City Council, we have in the Santa Clara Police Department policy 414 that is further articulation that formally implemented a number of things that were included in the California Values Act. Again, ground setting, important to note, Assembly Bill 450, also known as the Immigrant Worker Protection Act, That went into effect January of 2018. That also has survived a substantial legal challenge, and it generally prohibits federal immigration enforcement authorities from accessing non-public private workplaces without a judicial warrant. Lastly, want to note Senate Bill 627, commonly referred to as No Secret Police. This is a more recent law that went into effect January 1 of this year. It seeks to ban law enforcement, including federal law enforcement, from wearing mask coverings, with the exception of medical masks and certain tactical actions. However, very important to note, anticipated appeals and legislation, legal action is suspected, and so there has been an agreement statewide to suspend implementation of this pending judicial review. Okay, as I said, based on City Council action at your last meeting on January 27th, staff developed a statement that we will review now. That statement, if adopted by you tonight, is intended to be released to the public as a statement from the City Council to the public. It is attached to the agenda packet. It has a number of parts, and I will go through them now. Throughout Santa Clara's long and proud history, immigrants and people from all backgrounds have enriched and helped define Santa Clara's cultural, economic, and civic life as community leaders, entrepreneurs, neighbors, co-workers, and fellow students. Their presence and contributions have not only helped to fuel innovation, growth, and opportunity throughout the city, but have also shaped our identity. By fostering an inclusive environment grounded in respect, dignity, and fairness, the Santa Clara City Council affirms the principle that every person deserves to feel safe, valued, and supported. When we embrace diversity, we are better equipped to thrive socially, economically, and morally. The Santa Clara City Council shares deep concern and sorrow over the loss of life connected to recent immigration enforcement actions nationwide. We recognize that such conduct has made many members of our community fearful. The deaths and other incidents that appear to be inconsistent with respect for individual rights and due process demand serious attention at the federal level. Major events such as the Super Bowl require extensive coordination among local, state, and federal agencies to ensure the safety of residents, visitors, and participants. As part of this coordinated effort, multiple agencies will be present as a routine and precautionary measure to support event security, emergency preparedness, and response to credible public safety concerns. We engaged in this level of coordination in 2016 for Super Bowl 50, and it is common for all major sporting events, including the World Cup matches that will take place in Santa Clara this summer. Maintaining public safety and enforcement of laws carries a profound responsibility to protect human life and uphold dignity, due process, and accountability. Strong communities depend on trust between residents and public institutions, and for these reasons, we have insert any action that the city would take tonight, and those options are to adopt the statement as well as the draft resolution that will be in front of you, or any other potential actions. The statement goes on to say, during the Super Bowl and every day, the Santa Clara Police Department focuses solely on public safety and community protection. Our officers do not engage in civil immigration enforcement. California state law reinforces this by prohibiting local law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration enforcement efforts. With respect to Super Bowl 60, which will be played in Santa Clara, and related events that will occur across the Bay Area, we appreciate recent statements by federal officials indicating that there are no plans for immigration enforcement or an ICE deployment connected to any of these events. Standing with Santa Clara's diverse and immigrant communities is not only an act of solidarity, it is a clear declaration of our values and a statement to future generations that we chose courage, fairness, and hope when it mattered most. We encourage residents and visitors to enjoy the Super Bowl events responsibly and join us in standing with Santa Clara's diverse and immigrant communities. Signed, the Santa Clara City Council. With that, I will now turn the presentation over to City Attorney Glenn Googans, who will go through the draft policy that is before you.
Thank you, City Manager. We'll save our questions to the end of the presentation. Welcome, City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to be with you here tonight to present the draft City Council Policy 056. The draft policy that's before you tonight, among other things, would prohibit the use of city facilities, parking lots, garages, and open spaces for civil immigration enforcement purposes. There's some key exceptions to that I'll talk about when we get into the details of the policy, but that's the general thrust of the policy. At your January 27th meeting, this type of policy, you'll recall, was referenced by both advocates asking for city council action and council members who are aware of this kind of policy as the kind of policy that you would like to see brought back if we were able to bring back something for action. And given the time constraints and the availability of local models for this type of policy, to be honest, this policy was really the only type of policy we thought we could realistically put together and bring back, to you in the time that we had, we were afforded to do that. And so here we are, looking at this policy. The policy is primarily based on the City of San Jose's policy, which, per conversations I had with my counterparts at the City of San Jose itself, was based on a policy that had been adopted by the City of Chicago. We did look at other policies and provisions as potential components, in language for this policy, and we tried to tailor the policy as much as possible to Santa Clara. I say we, I don't mean the royal me. It was really me working on this. My other lawyers were working on a bunch of stuff. The policy, of course, as you know, was put together in 3 days. The policies that this was based on were put together after a lot of input from stakeholders and I think discussions with the public in between 3 and 4 months or longer, depending upon the policy. And so it was a challenge, but of course, when the council asks us to do something, we seek to meet the challenges presented. This next slide gives an idea of some of the benchmarking that was done in order to look at the kinds of policies in and around this area within our region. As you can see, the City of Oakland, City of Pinole, City of San Jose, Alameda County, San Mateo County, and Santa Clara County have all put together and adopted policies like this within the last year or so. This matrix gives you an idea of some of the components that went into these policies. These are detailed a little bit more for you in your staff report, but I don't think it's helpful for me to go through that really in any great detail these now for you. Instead, what I'm going to do is go over the key terms, again, using these policies and borrowing from them that went into the draft policy that's before you tonight. Really at the core of the policy, draft policy 056 is a general prohibition on the use of city facilities, parking lots, garages, and open spaces that are owned, or controlled by the city within the City of Santa Clara, our jurisdiction. And specifically, I think this is the exact language or close to it, the policy says no city-owned or city-controlled facilities, parking lot, garage, or open space shall be used as a staging area, a processing location, or an operations base for civil immigration enforcement. All of those terms in quotes are defined terms They were borrowed substantially, if not verbatim, from the City of San Jose policy. I thought they did a nice job of conceiving of what those things, were. And so I'll read them to you so you understand really what we're talking about. Staging area means an area that is used to assemble, mobilize, and deploy vehicles, equipment, or materials and related personnel for purposes of carrying out civil immigration enforcement operations. A processing location means an area that is used for activities such as the identification, intake, processing of documentation, detention, arrest, or temporary holding of individuals in connection with civil immigration enforcement operations. An operations base means an area that is used to plan, coordinate, and execute civil immigration enforcement activities. And so that's at the core of the policy, and that's the thrust of it. Again, largely based on City of San Jose. The policy also includes provisions for its implementation and enforcement. The city manager, as the administrator for all such policies within the city, is charged with identifying city-owned or city-controlled properties, and to, once those are identified, post clear signage on such properties that indicate the prohibited immigration activities. This will clearly take some time, and resources. There's going to be a focus on the kinds of properties that could loan themselves to these types of civil immigration activities. It doesn't make any sense to identify and post signs on things that couldn't possibly be deployed for that purpose. But there's a fair amount of really yet unanalyzed and costed work that would need to go into this. Where necessary and appropriate, there would also be a provision for installing physical barriers to discourage the prohibited activities. And it also, the policy also provides a procedure for city employees to report any prohibited activities to the city manager and the city attorney. And this is important to point out because like the other policies that we based this on, that are policies, not ordinances intended to create crimes, if in fact these policies are violated. The mechanism for enforcing this policy is if city manager or city attorney's office gets a report that there's prohibited activities, we would in effect need to seek a civil injunction in a lawsuit to file and to enjoin that type of activity. That's how all the others are set up. It avoids any type of argument that we are engaged in unlawful, prosecution of protected federal enforcement activities. And it really is intended to make this policy, like all of them, more of a city exercise of its rights with respect to property management of properties it owns and controls, right? We have the ability to say and we're supposed to use our properties for city purposes. The city is not engaged and is prohibited from engaging in civil immigration enforcement, activities, and so we want our properties reserved for city purposes, not these alternative purposes. And this really gets at that and balances kind of those interests. Next slide is something beyond just the city taking claim, of and managing its own properties. The policies that have been developed here, a number of them, not all of them, also provide for city support for private property owners, businesses, and residents to do the same if they want. So we're going to develop signage, and that the city will provide free electronic copy of that signage, a template that such property owners could use if they were interested in delimiting, areas on their privately owned property that they also wish to restrict those types of civil immigration enforcement activities. The city will also make available to the public Know Your Rights materials. I should point out that the city actually already does this. Materials are produced and available at the city libraries. This policy, in effect, affirms and formalizes things that we're doing already, and it could suggest maybe a more expanded distribution of those types of materials so people know their rights within our community. Next slide, and it's an important one, and it's limitations on scope of the application of this policy. Again, based on the policies that we looked at, they all have similar carve-outs in order to avoid conflicts with existing contracts or other rights for federal law enforcement agencies that we're not able to, influence and control. And the carve-outs are these. They apply to, they do not, the policy does not apply to city property subject to an existing lease, operator agreement, or other contractual restriction defined in the policy as existing contracts. This makes sense for the contract wonks and you, because to the extent a private property owner has a contractual right, it is unlawful to just change their contract and the terms of their ownership and control of that property merely by fiat, by making a policy. And so by necessity and appropriately, similar to other policies, we've carved out the application of this policy to policies that the city has in fact leased or otherwise provided control of to a private property owner. The other limit is on the execution of lawful judicial warrants or other enforcement of criminal law by any federal, state, or local law enforcement agency. Again, as a matter of relationships between jurisdictions, it is widely believed and understood that local jurisdictions cannot restrict criminal enforcement activities by other federal agencies, and so this property does not purport to do that. If there's a judicial warrant that was issued with respect to a city-owned property for a criminal enforcement activity by ICE or any other agency, this would not prevent them from gaining access to that property. Again, it's property management of things that we can control, but not things that we don't have the right to control. And finally, policy makes it clear that the rights of any person or entity under state or federal law, again, any person or entity, or other lawful activity, including by federal or state agencies and private entities or individuals, also is not prohibited. So if someone was exercising their lawful rights to protest or otherwise in an open space available for that purpose, this wouldn't prohibit that type of activity as well. We knew that the folks that came in and spoke to you on the 27th and that all of you, had specific concerns about, activities in and around the stadium. The other jurisdictions, many of them have the luxury of not having such a facility here to try to navigate around and sort out. But we, of course, do have this and understand that it's a concern, of the community. And so within our ability to control, these things, we did build into this policy special provisions for existing stadium contracts and future contracts. So there is a provision that says, even though we can't impose this requirement, that we would meet and confer with third parties of existing contracts for the operation of the stadium authority and owned stadium facilities to develop mutually agreeable mechanisms that, to the extent possible, implement the terms of the policy at stadium facilities. Again, as you all know, and maybe the public doesn't, we have a substantial operational control under a contract for 6 months of operations of the stadium. The 49ers, with the ability to license, the stadium themselves as tenant to other users like the NFL for purposes of the Super Bowl, control operations at the stadium, for the other 6 months. For the Super Bowl, they are in control, in effect, as a tenant with contractual rights with respect to the operations, at the stadium. So those need to be respected, but it doesn't mean that we can't say, hey, we are concerned about these things and we have a policy, we want to engage with you because we think that this will be a matter of mutual concern. There's not a bullet here that I want to read but I think it's important to show the balance or the attempt to balance of this policy is that this meet and confer process shall be done in a manner that recognizes and maintains the strong working relationships and close coordination with all federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies that is necessary and integral to assuring the security and safety of all stadium event participants, workers, attendees, businesses, neighborhoods, and others engaged in lawful activities at and around the stadium during major events. Again, recognition of existing, circumstances and the need to have any policy like this, should you proceed with it, balance those interests and maintain those relationships. For all other city-owned and controlled properties subject to existing, contracts with the city manager, this policy would provide notice of the existence of this policy and shall request the concurrence of those contracted parties with the terms of this policy. Again, if they have a contract, we can't impose this on them, but we can certainly ask for their concurrence. Then in addition, for any future agreements regarding city-owned or controlled property, wherever possible and allowed by law, we'll have to sort that out because there may be unique circumstances, the city manager shall direct that the use limitations set forth in this policy be included. So existing contracts are limited. The stadium authority has unique circumstances, but future contracts, should you decide to proceed, could have provisions that more expressly build these provisions, into that relationship. I should make, before I turn it over to the city manager to close, we're able to respond to city council requests, and I think we have in this case. But I have to tell you, I'm not entirely comfortable in front of you presenting this policy for action tonight. Good policy making, especially in complex areas of policy and the law, and especially where there are a lot of stakeholders and impacts, are not typically rushed, and they're not off the shelf, and they usually involve more substantial engagement with the stakeholders and the impacted parties before you make, such a policy. So I'm of that ilk. So it's while I obviously was glad to be able to put this together for you, I didn't do it with any great relish, and I wanted to be responsive. Obviously here to support the council, but I felt like I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, that certain level of professional discomfort in presenting this to you. With that, obviously I'll be here to answer questions about the policy or in other areas, but I'll turn the microphone over to the city manager.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager.
Thank you, and I'll wrap us up real quick. I will say that I share a bit of the city attorney's concern. I've been doing this long enough to know that when you really base your policy off what other cities have adopted, it may not hit exactly what you need for your community, and there may, and we didn't have that time for the community engagement with our local stakeholders. That said, the recommendation tonight is consider staff's presentation and take action that the city council deems appropriate. And so that is on your draft policy statement that we discussed earlier today, as well as the draft policy that was put before you, and as the city attorney mentioned, largely based on work that other communities have done. Additionally, if there are any other actions, it is our recommendation that those be referred to the city staff, or if there is substantial and substantive amendments to the policy, it would be our recommendation that we have additional time to work through those. That said, the city attorney and I are here to support your policy deliberations. And as I said, our, frankly, city operational mode has shifted to protection. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't conclude tonight's presentation with a thank you to all of our city and public employees that are actively supporting the public, whether that's in a protection capacity, a welcoming capacity, or even a janitorial capacity. And that extends to our allied partners. I can't tell you actually how many federal partners walked up to me yesterday and reminded me that they came here to protect our community at a time where they were furloughed and the federal government was going through a partial shutdown. Also, thank you to all of the private personnel. Many people don't know, but there's over 10,000 employees that have been hired to support the Super Bowl. And so thank you to all of those personnel as we are in the middle of implementation of Super Bowl week. With that, thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. And I want to thank our staff for putting this together so quickly. I know I had an opportunity to look at San Jose's policy a couple of weeks ago and had a chance to go through it, and I thought it was pretty decent. So thank you for putting this all together quickly. And I agree that we haven't outreached yet on this, and it may be too late for Super Bowl, even if we take action tonight, but it won't be too late for World Cup, which is, I think, we're going to have to do a lot more work between now and our first World Cup game. So, but I do appreciate you putting this all together. This is for questions only, so questions and I guess council comments too. I'm going to start with our District 1 representative, Vice Mayor Gonzalez. The stadium's in your district, although this policy will be citywide. But if you'd like to start.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that Council Member Cox and I drafted a short memo. So I'm going to read the gist of that and just mention at the end there the three items that are more implementation-wise that don't necessarily have to be in the policy, but that can be, hopefully followed on by staff, followed by staff. So I wanted to thank our city manager and our staff for responding with urgency to the concerns raised by our community. The fear and anger expressed by residents, particularly members of our immigrant community, were not abstract. They were grounded in real experiences, recent national events, and a deep distrust of federal immigration enforcement practices that have increasingly blurred the line between lawful activity and intimidation. Santa Clara is hosting events of international significance. With that visibility comes responsibility. Our residents deserve clarity, protection within the limits of the law, and a local government that acts decisively rather than symbolically. We write to affirm our support for advancing a concrete and enforceable city policy that prevents city-owned and city-controlled property from being used to facilitate civil immigration enforcement activities, while also providing practical guidance, resources to our residents and businesses. Specifically, we support the adoption of City Council Policy 056 as drafted by staff, which establishes the following core commitments. The city prohibits the use of city-owned and city-controlled facilities, parking lots, garages, and open spaces as staging areas, processing locations, or operational bases for civil immigration enforcement activities. We support directing the city managers to implement this policy through clear identification of covered properties, visible signage indicating prohibited uses, physical deterrence where appropriate, and internal reporting procedures for city employees to flag violations for review by the city manager and city attorney. While the city cannot regulate private property in the same manner, we strongly support providing standardized signage for voluntary use by property owners and making Know Your Rights materials publicly available in alignment with California law and Attorney General guidance. Partnership with local activist groups will ensure this messaging is circulated in the most efficient way possible with the greatest reach and impact. This policy must be explicit that it does not interfere with lawful judicial warrants, criminal law enforcement, or rights and obligations imposed by state and federal law. Clarity here is essential to maintain public trust and avoid misinformation. Given the scale and complexity of Stadium Authority operations, we support staff's approach to meet and confer with existing contract partners and community groups to implement this policy to the greatest extent possible while preserving necessary coordination among law enforcement agencies to ensure public safety. For future agreements, we support including these use limitations wherever legally permissible. In addition to adopting policy 056, we request that staff modify the policy to include, and whether it's modified or implemented with these caveats, a clear implementation timeline identifying what can be executed immediately and what will require additional staffing or resources. Guidance on employee training related to safe site protocols and reporting procedures, and a public-facing summary of lessons learned from Super Bowl operations to inform preparation for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. This moment requires more than reassurance. It requires visible action that is legally sound, operationally feasible, and responsive to the lived reality of our residents. Policy 056 is not a declaration of intent. It is a framework for real limits, real notice, and real accountability. We appreciate staff's work under tight timelines and look forward to continued collaboration to ensure Santa Clara remains a city where all residents can live, work, and participate without fear. And that's signed by Councilmember Kelly Cox and I.
Vice Mayor, I have a question on the letter here.
Yes.
Are you and Councilmember Cox suggesting those 3 bullet points be included in the policy, to be added into the policy?
if we can add them into the policy or put it in the record that they be implemented in some way, they're not, they're more implementation versus policy, right? So those are things that can be afforded, whether they're in the policy or the staff, brings those items to bear. But the third one basically is a report after the Super Bowl, looking at what worked, what didn't work, and what we can use moving forward with FIFA World Cup.
Thanks. I just wanted clarification on that. Thank you. Councilmember Jane?
Yes. So there have already been some Super Bowl activities. There was an opening night at downtown San Jose, and I believe there was a drone show there. Then there was an event at the Moscone Center. Then the teams were practicing today. So my question is, has there been any evidence of ICE presence at any of those events? And then can you talk about free speech zones that we have established in the city of Santa Clara to allow people to express their First Amendment rights without any consequences? Unfortunately, this administration has been violating people's free speech rights for, at least since for a long time, but 2021. So I just wanted to know about the free speech zones. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy?
Thank you. I want to make certain I understand what power the city council does have, because some of this is directing the police department, and I know that we do not have that power. So I want to understand that. I also want to understand, because this is a policy, is that different than an ordinance? Because usually we have to have a second reading on something, and this is very last minute. I will say it's very frustrating because we have spent years, and I mean years, working on the safety. And there's so many things to keep people safe that it's better that we don't say, because it keeps everyone safer by not saying things. So you may feel like we're not saying enough, but that's to keep you all safe. So I felt much better with the public statement from the NFL. I think it's the director of their security, who was also in charge of security for all the Super Bowls for over 10 years, and that made me feel much better. But I want to make certain I understand if we pass something tonight, because this is a very last-minute situation. We have been working for years to keep everyone safe, and with the very clear statement of no immigration enforcement being here, that is it better for us to hold off and look at this more carefully and pass something before FIFA? It's a question. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chahal?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, thank you, staff, city manager and the staff, city attorney and the staff, and thank you all the partners. And best of all, thank you to the residents whose advocacy brought this thing to this urgency, basically. That means a lot, and communication from the residents means a lot to council, as well as defining any policy. Whether it's a 911 policy, we have to come up with something. So I appreciate your presence and your feedback on that. There are several things I want staff, which can low-hanging fruit, basically. Like we have SB 54, which is California Values Act, and several other AB 450 and SB 627, no secret. Although that is under judicial review, we can leave that aside for the time being. But at least our SB 54 and AB 450, which are very broad and given state so much power in defining the powers of the state as well as local municipalities, I would like the city to put those on our website so that every common resident can go through those and see what are the values, what are the rights have been given by, like SB 54. no local cooperation for ICE operations, no data sharing with the ICE, no money spending on behalf of the cities or any agencies involved with the city, no assets are to be provided, no detention can be done for the city, right? PD cannot be under ICE umbrella, basically. So judicial warrants are needed if they are going into any of the city properties, or they do need a judicial warrant for that matter. No space sharing or detention facilities by the cities, basically. So I would highlight that we should put this thing on our website along with whatever policy decisions we are taking today, so that our residents are more educated, everyone is more educated about, along with the know your rights part of it, that they know what the state has done, what the local municipalities are following, basically. And just to let you know, in 2018, November of 2018, SB 54, the California Values Act, was unanimously approved by the City Council. So basically, we are adhering to that since 2018, for that matter. So that's just for the knowledge of everyone knowledge. I also want to thank various officials like NFL security chief and DHS representative representing this San Francisco area. Their assurances that no plans for ICE, that means a lot, and hopefully the administration stands by that. We are hopefully looking at that. And I'm not sure how many of you have gone through or listened to the today morning 8:30 a.m. press conference from these Kathy Lanier and Jeff Brannigan about this thing, or mainly basically security aspects, as well as about the no plans for ICE during any, not only at the stadium, but any of the events outside the stadium. So they have clearly mentioned that. So I want to mention that if you get a chance, please look at those. Those are available on KTVU, NBC, ABC, all the major news organizations, they have mentioned that. And we also have SCPD policy 414, which I would also request staff to put that thing on the website so that they know what Santa Clara PD stands for. And even on those SP 414, there are clear guidelines and the policy matter that Santa Clara PD will not stop or indulge into any ICE type of operation. They will not even detain anybody, whether because of their status in this country, basically. And I, being an immigrant, I can understand the concern, and I hear from the community the concerns of that segment of the population. So I would like that to be more clear. We should put these policy as a front line, educating our residents for that matter. There is one more. I would request staff to look into it. I know there's a shortage of time right now before the Super Bowl. Several cities have recalled their ALPR, automatic license plate reader, because of the data leakage. So we should look into our ALPR vendor, whether that data is secure, and it should not be going into outside of the agency, basically Santa Clara City agency, which required that. It should not be going out to anybody other than which is meant for it. And we have to, I think City of Mountain View has stopped their ALPR, postponed their ALPR because of these reasons. And I've also asked staff to please look into this ASAP. And if there is any doubt that our data is being leaked out to someone, we have to take very proactive actions on those. So I would like to hear what is on that. So that's my initial thought, and thank you for presentation, and thank you everybody who contributed towards this policy making in such a short time. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Councilmember Park.
Yes, thank you for staff. Thank you very much. I mean, I hear a lot of different things, and some things seem very contradictory to me. I mean, when we say that we didn't have a lot of time to put this together, I feel like we did have a lot of time, I guess. My question is, how much time did we have since we finalized Super Bowl agreements and started working on security and safety plans? I know that we have a lot of rules and a lot of things that we put in place, but I'm concerned about things like limitations on scope. We have prohibitions against people using city-owned property, but subject to existing lease, license, operator agreement, and contractual agreements. What about the convention center and the stadium? I mean, those are city properties, but those aren't necessarily being operated by the city, so would the prohibitions be there? Are they, what are the city-owned properties that right now we know are by contract or any other reason by operation are not subject to any of the prohibitions described in the council policy? I think that rather than have city-owned properties that people know are very, very well that these are city-owned properties, but we need to know what the exceptions are when those city-owned properties, including the convention center and stadium, are not subject to the prohibitions in this council policy. Did we ask what the people who work in these environments have to say? It says city will work with contract holders and operators, but will it also publish a list of venues and operators who do not agree to these prohibitions, especially on city-owned properties? I think it's very important that the public knows where they're going and where the prohibitions where they think they are safe are actually in effect. SB 45, as Councilmember Chahal was talking about, prohibits sharing of local data. And my question is, what about third-party data? It's not even enough that it's secure. I want to know if that information is being shared at all. We have enough examples of companies securing their data and then selling the data, selling the company to other companies. What about third-party data that the police department uses? I mean, we use flock safety cameras. I think a lot of jurisdictions are moving away from that for this reason. I'd like to know what the restrictions, if any, apply to flock cameras. SB 45 prohibits immigration enforcement by local officers and federal oversight of local officers for immigration enforcement, but that does not preclude law enforcement from helping federal authorities on their own accord. Talks about, what we talk about a requirement for reporting, but I see that there are mechanisms for reporting, but I guess I'd like to hear more about the requirements for reporting and what kind of reporting we have. I see the city manager is looking at me, but in the policies adopted by other cities, there is a requirement for reporting, and we have on slide it's there. Slide 26, mechanism for reporting from staff to city manager, but I don't know what the requirements are, and I don't know what the public can do for this kind of reporting. SB 45 also 54 also says no federal immigration use of detention facilities, but what if an action is not marked as an immigration enforcement activity? What if it's in the duty of doing something else and it just happens not to be immigration enforcement? Could they then use detention facilities? What about ad hoc facilities or temporary facilities? Are those, that are converted for use? Are those covered in these restrictions? Again, I think that a lot of people on council would like to pass a statement, but the reality is we need to make sure that the people know what they're getting into and that people are safe and secure. So that's the start of the questions. I'd like to hear what the mayor has to say, and then I'd love to go to the public. Thank you.
Please, you can hold your applause to the end. That would be great. Councilmember Cox, did you have something to say? Questions?
I think after hearing the staff's presentation and meeting with some of the members of the community today, I was pretty pleased that we came out with this draft policy. However, it seems like now towards the end, there's going to be reluctance, at least hesitation, to put this into place. And so I want to be really clear. The hesitation was listed as, or said to be, coming into this too fast. What I worry about at the end of the day is that there is going to be a push to do nothing. And so I would like to know in realistic terms, what's the worst that could happen if we put a policy into place that attempts to do something right now? I know we've talked about stakeholders. I think primarily we're talking about one stakeholder right now who we've conferred with. But I want to understand, really, is doing something better than doing nothing? And I know that's not a popular opinion right now, but I want to understand if you guys could articulate what the risk would be if we move forward with this, besides angering, a group of people. What is the worst that could happen? What are our liabilities in this? Because it has been happening in other cities. And again, I think that that's really an unsatisfactory stance to take when we have a community who's saying we have to be proactive. Now, I understand that everybody comes here, and I don't want to diverge into comments right now. That's a question. Everybody is entitled to have their own prioritization of how this happens. People are prioritizing safety. The NFL wants to have a beautiful event that doesn't draw a lot of negative attention. None of those things are wrong, but we've been put in a position to do something tonight, and I really worry that as a result, we'll say, don't do anything right now because we're not ready. So I need to understand what's the risk.
Thank you for that. I concur with that. We have to do something, and the world is changing so fast that we have to take action when we take action. It's just the reality of it. I know what we do tonight may not be perfect, but we can have a little more time later to adjust it, especially after we find out what happens after Super Bowl, what's the fallout after Super Bowl. And then we'll have a little bit of time to help us before World Cup. Not long, but we'll still have more time. So I think, if something happens now, we need to take some kind of action. My questions are, I guess, really practical questions in terms of the city facilities. I understand maybe, Great America is under, well, no, we don't own Great America anymore. What am I saying? I was in my mind thinking we still own Great America. We're forced to sell that. We have city facilities that are leased, but most of our city facilities are, parks and libraries and really public areas. Does this also include the right-of-ways, the streets, and the sidewalks as well? Because it should include all of that. And if we pass this tonight, this policy this evening, does it automatically go into effect tomorrow? And will it be implemented for Super Bowl? And we're saying Super Bowl, but we're talking about our whole city, because even during the Super Bowl events, this week, which most of them are in other cities, even if we talk about the Super Bowl events, there's still going to be, potential protests. There's going to be, demonstrations. It could be on Stevens Creek and Winchester like they regularly are, different parts of town. So we're talking citywide. You may hear us say Super Bowl or World Cup a lot, but we're really talking citywide. So will this take effect tomorrow if the council passes this policy this evening? And I think that's it for the questions. So when you're ready, city manager, city attorney.
Sure.
There's only about 50 in there, so I'll go ahead and get started. There's a theme.
Yes, and I think we'll take some of the individual questions first, and then there are a number of questions that I think we can group together. So let's start with Councilmember Gonzalez. Reference the letter, and there are a number of components in the letter that are covered in the draft policy. We received this a little bit earlier today, but I do believe items 1 through 4 are really covered already in the language of the draft policy that's before you. And so then that leaves us item 5, which is really, in many ways, can be summarized as look at lessons learned for large-scale events like the Super Bowl, and confer with our existing contractual partners and community groups on how to implement this policy to the greatest extent possible, and for future agreements, support including limitations where legally permissible. And part of that was actually in the policy too as well. And so then we had a number of questions from Councilmember Sudds Jane. One was, has there been any evidence of ICE activity in Santa Clara, but actually I think you said across the Bay Area for events. And so the answer to that is not to our knowledge. I am aware that late yesterday there was a report of I believe it said an ICE agent checking into the Hilton. That was quickly debunked, and then late in the afternoon that was removed, or late in the evening that was removed by the individual that put it up. And so not sure exactly who was seen checking in at the hotel, but that was debunked. And so I know that was also covered at the 8:30 a.m. press conference. Next, there was a question around free speech zones. Yes, there will be, and we do have a flyer that is currently being put up on the screen. And so this will go out later this week, but there are 2 free speech zones. They will be active on Super Bowl day from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. The location for the West Zone is at Great America Parkway and Patrick Henry Drive. And on the east side, it is Tasman and Lickmill. And if you'll go to the next page, what you'll see are 2 maps of where those locations are. Those locations are represented by the salmon reddish color. But this map will be posted and available to the public. Next, Councilmember Hardy had a number of questions around, is this a policy or is this an ordinance? Councilmember, let's come back to that because I think that relates to a couple other questions related to this. There was also a comment around, or frankly, a question on the limits of city council power to pass policies that impact the police department and the operational activities of the police department. And so for that, I'll turn that over to our city attorney.
Thanks. I'll add something first to one of your answers. Thanks to Chief Assistant Suruder for apprising me of this. Those free speech zones are the current free speech zone areas that are designated, but that is subject to change on event day based on security concerns. So if there's a security issue that causes where there needs to be an adjustment in the free speech zone, they could be, adjusted and modified in order to address that security concern. But that is what's established.
How will we notify the public if those free speech zones have changed? Is it real time?
We would use social media in that instance, both our city and likely our law enforcement social media accounts.
So with respect to, city council ability to direct the chief of police and the police department, just a very basic summary of structure of government. As you know, we're a charter city, council manager, form of government with some provisions in the charter and in our municipal code that describe who's responsible for what. And in our city, somewhat uniquely, we have an elected chief of police who's given authority to supervise, activities, in the police department, and in this case, he is, accountable to the people, not accountable to removal, by the city council, because he's not an appointed official, he's an elected official. So there are some limitations on council ability to direct another kind of elected official to implement, policy in that regard. And so we would have to, if there was a proposal to do that, we would have to look at that very carefully to see if it was the kind of thing that fell within the city's scope. So there are meaningful limitations there in light of our structure of government. And I should analogize, that's not entirely unique with respect to the chief of police. You also, while you do appoint your city manager, the city manager is responsible for the administration, of policy, and procedures at his level. And while the council makes larger, broad policies, it's up to the city manager to determine, how those are implemented by his own adoption of city manager directives, and other provisions. Was there another one for me, or is that back to you?
We'll come back to the other one.
Did you want me to do policy versus ordinance?
Can we pause on that one?
Yeah,
just
sorry, you
for 1
did.
second?
Yeah.
Councilmember Raj Jahal mentioned that we should include information on Senate Bill 54, as well as other state policies and some of our local city policies on a dedicated section of our website so that it's very accessible to the public, and we can certainly take that back and do that. There was a question/comment by Councilmember Park with respect to the amount of time, and so as you know, staff takes our direction from the City Council, and so after Tuesday's meeting, when we were directed to look into this policy, really as we articulated, that was a Tuesday. We endeavored to have the packet released on Friday so that the public had knowledge of what you would be discussing today, and there was notice of this meeting, and so that really left under 72 hours for the work. And so, as I said earlier, a bit of trepidation only because this is largely based on what other cities have done, and I said earlier, I've been around long enough to know that when you adopt a policy, communicating with your local public and outreach to the local community may actually inform what you do. Cut and paste policy has its challenges, right? What's right for one community may not be right for the next community. In fact, last Tuesday, we had a number of members of the public saying, just adopt exactly what San Jose did. Just adopt exactly what San Jose did. And as we looked at that, it actually connects to one of the questions from the council members. San Jose's policy exempts all publicly owned facilities that are under an existing contract, right, or license agreement. This does too. We took it a step further and within our policy directed that the city manager inform all existing licensees or lessees of city property of the new council that the city council adopted, as well as took it a little further than that and embedded within the policy is the direction that the city manager shall include this policy, if adopted, as a standard template in our normal lease and licensing agreement, so that it's not just a policy that sits, it's council policy 56, but it's embedded into our normal template. That's something that the other cities didn't have, right? And so partly what we're saying is we don't know that we caught everything, and we certainly know that this policy has not gone through the rigor of outreach to our local community. And so we just want to be professionally transparent to say that this is largely based on what other communities did, and it may not reflect what's exactly right for Santa Clara. There was also a question from Councilmember Park that if license holders do not agree to implement the city's policy, that be noted and reflected somewhere publicly. I would also say that there's a statement in the policy that this policy is not intended to amend existing contracts, right? We have dozens, if not hundreds, of existing contracts, and so it would be a challenge if this policy attempted to be a unilateral amendment of those, and so it is not a unilateral amendment of those, and so that's why the city manager would issue a letter to everyone with encumbered city property. Next, there were comments around FLOC and third-party data. I will say that I cannot answer those questions tonight. We are certainly knowledgeable of a recent article that came out with regard to Mountain View PD. We have looked at our FLOC system and can confirm that we don't have that same problem. But the larger questions around sharing of law enforcement data, unfortunately tonight, because law enforcement is active, we do not have senior law enforcement officials here tonight to support your policy deliberations. So we will have to punt any detailed discussion of those, and certainly I don't want to speak for senior individuals in our police department tonight. There were a number of questions questions and I think comments by Councilmember Park saying that we want people to feel safe and secure if the city council adopts this policy, that they would be safe and secure. And that frankly also connects to Councilmember Hardy's question around, is this a resolution or is it an ordinance, right? Is it a law or is this council policy? and what in fact is the true effect in reality if this council passed, or frankly, this policy that's active in a number of other cities. And I'll turn that over to the city attorney because it has a little legal nuance to it, as well as I'll ask the city attorney to talk about enforceability, because I do think that many people in the public think that policies like this mean that it is an absolute prohibition against ICE coming on city property, and local law enforcement will enforce that. I've actually heard that or seen that in comments on San Jose's policy, and that's not true. And so it's important to have a very clear understanding of what this policy does and what it doesn't do.
Can you also tell us if San Jose or the counties, there's a policy or an ordinance as well?
I didn't catch that, Mayor. What again?
San Jose, is it a San Jose policy or a San Jose ordinance? And county, is it a county policy and a
In both cases, I believe policy, Madam Mayor, I know for sure, for City of San Jose, and there's a couple reasons for that, as I touched on, but maybe not in enough detail in my affirmative presentation. Madam Mayor, and you're right, Member Hardy, an ordinance is a more formally adopted in effect, making of a law. And it's placed on first reading, and then there's second reading and adoption. Then there's a 30-day, unless there's an emergency, period where if a resident or other individual was standing wants to challenge that policy, they can subject it to a referendum, in effect, a vote of the people. And typically, ordinances are formally adopted and incorporated into the city code in order to have full notice provided to people who might be subject to that policy, because the consequences for violating an ordinance very typically is both potential civil administration remedies, but in severe cases, prosecution for a misdemeanor. So there might be criminal, charges as a result of that. Other jurisdictions have not done that. We are not proposing to do that because we don't think that's the appropriate mechanism, for this. This really is us managing, our property and making sure it's dedicated to city purposes. It also avoids us and our police department, in theory, having to prosecute in interactions with other federal agencies, which creates issues and just isn't done, currently. And so it's designed to be something that applies and is a rule, but isn't enforced like an ordinance with those severe consequences. Instead, it's a property management mechanism where we pursue civil enforcement through an injunction, not through a criminal prosecution.
Next, there were a number of questions from Council Member Cox, who asked around the hesitation, and I think, Councilmember, I don't want to quote you incorrectly, but I think you alluded to staff maybe not wanting council to act. And let me just clarify that not at all what staff is saying or has said. We take our direction from the City Council. Council unanimously directed that we bring back a policy and supporting materials. We did that. We just are being transparent around that was done, and it's largely based on what other cities have done. And frankly, I don't think we would be doing our job if we didn't articulate that we have not gone through a process to engage the Santa Clara public around this, and there may be things in the expedited nature to get this to you that were not considered, or other things that may be able to be added. And so certainly the council can act tonight, and certainly anything you act on, we implement. There was also a question
Can I make a quick clarification before? Thanks, Christine, correcting me. San Jose was a resolution. The county did adopt an ordinance in their implementation. Yep.
Thank you.
And an ordinance requires 2 readings, of which.
Right, we're familiar.
Okay, next there was a question around what's the worst that can happen. A very tough question to answer, and frankly, almost an impossible question for civilian staff to answer. And so without senior law enforcement present, I cannot discuss or wouldn't even want to assume the public safety implications of additional changes in the federal posture toward Super Bowl events. I will say that, as we talked about during the presentation, it is important to note that this conversation around potential immigration issues around Super Bowl did not come up just last week. In fact, it had been a part of normal, both tactical planning as well as conversations as we prepared for this event. And certainly, I think that earlier today, the public heard something that we had heard earlier, which is there is not a planned ICE deployment around any of the Super Bowl events in Santa Clara or elsewhere. You know, that's where we are today, right? We sit here with that information, and so that is what we know today.
I might add a couple of things to that, just from a legal standpoint. To the extent this is a new policy, and a lot of these are new policies, we're not aware that they've been challenged, but they could be, right? And then we'd be in a position of having to, defend, the policy and a legal challenge. Some of these other larger jurisdictions are better equipped, to do that than we might be, but obviously, part of the reason why this particular policy is in front of you is because we think it is one of the ones that is likely to survive challenge because of how carefully it's been drafted. But I can't tell you I know that it's indestructible or that action might be not be taken to challenge it. The other thing I think that the city manager was going to mention is that's less legal. But one of the things that we're always concerned about when policies like this are adopted, and it gets at a comment that Member Park made about people being safe. This is a very narrow focus, limited thing. And if the headline is, city prevents ICE, from, enforcement within its city, that's just not accurate and not true. So it might create, even though it's narrow and focused and we think appropriate, it might create an impression that we've done more than we really have and make people feel safer when we can't afford them that, sense of safety. And so those are the things we wrestle with and that you all wrestle with, right, when you have more time over a series of time to engage with stakeholders and look at and think about what you're doing. But that's less a legal risk, than it is kind of a policy and communication risk, because it's hard to communicate, particularly in this environment, with nuance and accuracy as to what you're doing and what you're not doing. And that's why, as part of my presentation, I tried to make that as clear as possible. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And lastly, there was a question from Mayor Gilmore around, does this policy include our right-of-way? And I'll turn that to the city attorney.
It does not, Madam Mayor. The other policies don't either. I think there's different rules and controls
Jose's
that
included
affect
right-of-way.
right-of-way. No, it does. San Jose's does not, affect right-of-way. It talks about open space, and it talks about, city facilities.
Ours would include open space. And
Ours includes
yeah.
open space. Yeah, it includes open space, it includes parking lots, it includes facilities that might lend themselves to have those kinds of spaces, but it does not include right-of-way. There's different rules about access to right-of-way, both for the public and law enforcement agencies. That would be difficult to include in a policy like this. That's a different management exercise, so it does not include that. And go into effect tomorrow.
Yeah, it would go into effect tomorrow because
That's my second
it
question.
is a resolution. But just piggybacking off what the city attorney just said, I think the fact that it does not include right-of-ways is another example of somewhat the misunderstanding that people have with these type of policies. They get the sense that the city has taken action and prevented ICE from city property, and that includes properties that it doesn't, right? And so,
Right. One thing I was looking at is the consistency of having a neighboring city with the same or very similar policy to what we have here. So, and then, of course, the county, but it just gives a level of consistency since Santa Clara, although we're not the size of San Jose, we have big city assets in this city. And to be consistent with the big city next door, I think is a good thing. All right, thank you. Is that it then for the questions?
Mayor, I think we addressed your question about Super Bowl, meaning this would apply if adopted. The resolution would be in effect tomorrow.
All right, very good. Okay, we have Councilmember Park.
Yeah, I did have some very specific questions about Convention Center and Stadium. I did have some other questions that were not answered.
Sure. Convention Center and the stadium, I'm sorry, we did answer with, I thought we did answer with respect to city property. So Stadium Authority, I'm sorry, Convention Center is city property. And so this would apply to the Convention Center. It is not leased to another entity. We do own a portion of the parking lots for Levi Stadium. Those are encumbered for part of the year to the San Francisco 49ers, and so that's a leasehold. And so all of those scenarios are covered in the policy in one way or another. Either they're city property not leased or city property that is leased, and then the policy instructs the city manager to send a notice to the leaseholder.
Okay, and then specifically for the stadium,
So the stadium,
I mean, I kind of know the answer,
covered,
but I think the public needs to know.
very similar. So nuance with the stadium, the land under the stadium is owned by the city. The stadium as a facility, the building is owned by the Stadium Authority. And so in accordance with this policy, the city would send a notice to itself, the Stadium Authority. The Stadium Authority would then send a notice to its leaseholder, the San Francisco 49ers that have a lease for part of the year.
All right, very good. So thank you for all those answers. We may have some more questions later. I'm sure we will. We're going to start with our public members, and I'm going to call up 3 at a time, and if you wouldn't mind queuing up so that we can, be fairly consistent and move along. We have a 2-minute limit, although our first speaker, I'm going to call it Mary Grizzle. She has 2 other members of the public have deferred their time to her. So 3 other members? No.
Madam Mayor, she has 3 members. That would be Donna West, Connie Costa, and Linda Johnston, who are online and are
So she
ceding
has
time.
8 minutes?
She has 8 minutes.
All right, so 8 minutes, followed by Wes, if you wouldn't mind queuing up, and Samina. But you might not want to get up yet. She has 8 minutes, so. Rest your legs. All right, Mary, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, and City Attorney. I'm here tonight not on my behalf as reclaiming our downtown, but on behalf of myself and on behalf of the citizens of Santa Clara that have, for the last week, kept me up till 1 o'clock with telephone calls and questions. And so I'm not speaking tonight about what's on the agenda itself, but I'm here to share my concerns about how meeting information and public access are being handled, especially about tonight's meeting. Late last night, on Thursday or Friday, I received notice about the February 2nd meeting and its agenda, but I was already planning to attend the February 3rd meeting. At the request of residents, when I checked the city's meeting calendar to confirm the February 3rd meeting, it was not clearly listed. Only the February 2nd meeting appeared, with just a small reference at the bottom to another meeting the following day. Because of this, many residents called me asking why the February 3rd meeting was not showing up. People were confused and frustrated, and I did not have clear answers for them. The calls continued late into the evening after 1 o'clock. The next morning, frustrated and tired, I asked my sister Bernadette to help me understand the city calendar system because it was so unclear. She did her own checking and concluded that there was a problem and contacted city staff. She told them that if residents cannot rely on the city calendar or Channel 15 broadcasts to find meeting information, then the system is not working. Transparency is not optional, it's essential. Only later was the February 3rd meeting added to the program. but the city told Bernadette that it appears at the very bottom of the page. A person has to scroll all the way down to find it. And no reasonable resident would know to do that. I am also told the program does not allow 2 consecutive entries in the same week, which creates further confusion. That is a system limitation that needs to be fixed, not worked around at the expense of public awareness. If the city's digital systems are not giving residents clear and reliable information, they need to be corrected. The city should also consider restoring direct phone access so residents can speak with someone to get accurate answers in real time. I also want to add one additional note for the record. I received a message today from an attorney who raised a concern about the wording of tonight's resolution regarding federal enforcement agencies. The concern expressed to me is that the resolution names ICE but does not explicitly reference Custom and Border Protection, and that omission could create ambiguity. I am not presenting that as a verified legal conclusion, but I am relaying it as a concern that was raised and may deserve clarification by council before final adoption. After all, it was Customs and Border Protection that killed Alex Petty. I am super pleased at the turnout tonight of concerned citizens. This is truly heartwarming for me. As a group of citizens, this is the only way we can make change. Thank you.
Thank you. No, if you hold your applause, please. Thank you. I want people to feel comfortable coming up. Wesley, followed by Samina, followed by Emil. Welcome, Wesley.
Honorable City Council members and Mayor of Santa Clara, thank you for the opportunity to speak on this most important matter of ICE and its over-aggressive tactics in our U.S. cities, leading to violence and reckless killing of U.S. citizens in Minneapolis. Without this resistance, this will continue. My name is Wes Mukuyama, resident of Santa Clara at the same address for 51 years. I am also a member of the Nikkei Resistors, a part of Neighbors and Neighbors Not Enemies coalition in Japantown. As a Japanese American born in the U.S. during World War II, I am extremely concerned how ICE is unconstitutionally attacking people of color who may be citizens and deporting them without due process, very much like Japanese Americans who were evacuated to 10 isolated land sites in 1942 under incarceration. My wife was born in a camp in Aurora, Arkansas. ICE is repeating the same procedure to our communities of color, only in a more violent, cruel manner, threatening the lives and public safety wherever. I urge you to strongly stand up and oppose their presence and activities by declaring sanctuary. Be a sanctuary city and not be intimidated by the president's funding. Do not allow our law officers.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, appreciate it.
Strong statement, please.
Thank you. Samina, followed by Emil, followed by Misran. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Samina Usman, and I'm with Secure Justice. I wanted to thank the council for taking our concerns seriously, and I wanted to thank also the staff for their quick action in developing this policy. I know it's been stated that that the DHS has said that there's no planned immigration enforcement operations for the Super Bowl, but just because something has not been planned from before does not mean that they can just change their minds and plan something now. And the fact that we don't have a policy in place, and if we do not pass this tonight, it shows that the city has not taken a strong stance. And I know that SB 54 has been referenced, throughout tonight. And the thing is that unfortunately, there are loopholes to SB 54. It has not kept our communities safe. And so that's why we need a clear stance from the city that they're going to be protecting our community, that they're not going to be cooperating with ICE, that we're not going to be having shared spaces or to have a city property used for ICE. And so without having this strong policy, and I believe that the city should pass not only the policy, but also the memo that has been drafted by council members, Vice Mayor Gonzalez and Councilmember Cox, because we need to have this be strong and secure, so that we can show that our city is not going to be standing with what operations that are happening and the kidnappings that have been happening of our community. And I know that it's been talked about with human trafficking as a concern. Now, the thing is that the fact that human trafficking, the collaboration with ICE does not mean that we're going to be protected from human trafficking. What's happening with ICE is that...
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to ask if everyone could stay to their 2 minutes, because we have so many speakers and we want to hear from everyone. Thank you. So Emil, followed by Ms. Rain, followed by Akimi. Welcome.
Hello, Mayor and City Council from the city of Santa Clara. My name is Misraim Mendoza, and I'm here with IPEN, which stands for Immigration Protection Empowerment Network. And and I just want to say, I had a whole speech, but I just want to, I hope that you guys know, you guys got 44% in your population of your city is foreign born. They were not born here. If that will happen, what happened in Minneapolis to your city, you will be in big, big trouble. Just look at the city council. I love it because it's very diverse, right? It's very diverse. But let me tell you something, brothers and sisters here today. If ICE was gonna pull you guys 7 over in the street, 4 of you guys be in big, big trouble, okay? You guys will be arrested because they're arresting citizens, okay? And they're blaming us, immigrants, for all of the mishaps that have been happening in this country, which is not true, okay? And I'm very surprised that this city doesn't have a policy like this. Okay, I'm very surprised, and you keep asking for time. Let me tell you something, we don't have time. My people is dying. 32 people died in ICE custody last year, and counting. Okay, 2 allies were killed. You guys saw the news, right? I don't have to tell you more, okay? But thousands more of my people die every single year in the border, okay? This is nothing compared to what we go through. And I'm speaking to you as an immigrant, okay? We in deep trouble. The way you speak, the way you look, okay, our constitutional rights are out the door. No more, we don't have no more constitutional rights. But one thing we have to be certain, we're gonna be resilient. We're gonna be resilient, and we're gonna resist this like we've been resisting for many, many years since 1930s, okay? When they deported a bunch of Chicanos back to Mexico. Okay, we're gonna keep resisting. And you guys, stop thinking about time. Pass this policy now.
Thank you. All right, we have Akimi, followed by Samantha, followed by Carmen M. Please come forward. If you wouldn't mind queuing up too. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, city staff. Kemi Flynn with the Immigrant Protection and Empowerment Network, IPEN, and also with WES and the Nikkei Resistors and the Neighbors Not Enemy Coalition. I'll be brief. Just want to say what you heard from Samina and Misraim and from WES. That is exactly the situation that we're in, and we ask you to strongly support the staff recommendation plus the additional points from Councilmember Cox and Vice Mayor Gonzalez. This is not a time to be hesitant. There's been lots of planning, and this is not only about the one game that's happening this week, it is about the well-being of the community in the days and months and years to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have Samantha, followed by Carmen, followed by Hector. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Samantha, and I'm here on behalf of Latinas Contra Cancer, the Patient Organizing Committee, and CSO San Jose. Right now, many of our patients hesitate before stepping into hospital or clinics. No one should ever think twice about seeking essential medical care. But with the rise of aggressive and violent ICE operations, immigrant families are not only freeing for themselves, they are freeing for their children's safety. This is unacceptable. Healthcare spaces must remain safe, confidential, and free from ICE intimidation. That includes restrictions on data sharing, ensuring the hospitals, clinics, and city departments do not intentionally or unintentionally share patient information, location data, or service use records with ICE. When our patients believe their personal information could be accessed or misused, they stop seeking care entirely. That creates preventable emergencies, worsens health inequities, and undermines public health. With the Super Bowl only 5 days away, our community feels abandoned. Families tell us their leaders look comfortable while satisfied, while immigrant residents are afraid to go to the grocery store, take their kids to school, or access basic medical services. Our patients deserve better. They deserve leaders who act with urgency, not after harm has already been done. I urge you to protect our community now by passing a strong policy that ensures no cooperation, no data sharing, and no room for ICE to terrorize our families during this high-profile event or ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Next, we have Carmen, followed by Hector, and I'm going to call Emil again. Emil Kirov, welcome.
Hello, my name is Carmen, and I'm the Director of Organizing with Latinas Contra Cancer. We serve cancer patients from across the county, and we work hard to ensure their voices are heard throughout every step of their journey. Our patients, communities, and many of us in this room do not trust federal agencies. We need to ensure that our community members, the very people who voted for you, are protected. Santa Clara must commit to limiting ICE activity on city property in order to safeguard public health and community safety. Public health depends on trust, and that trust disappears when ICE immigration enforcement is present. The past year, we saw agents stationed for nearly 2 weeks inside Los Angeles hospitals violating patient rights. And from our very own listening campaign, patients repeatedly told us they skip appointments because they fear encountering ICE. This fear has real health consequences. We cannot ignore the trauma and the deaths connected to immigration enforcement. And while reassurance comes that ICE will not be conducting any activity during the Super Bowl, our communities deserve an actual policy, not promises. And what the hell, no one believes that. Well, I'm glad that the council decided to agendize this. It is unacceptable and embarrassing that it won't be implemented before one of the most televised events in the world. Moreover, the audacity to want to implement free speech zones, but don't realize that when marginalized communities are constantly having their rights violated, these limitations don't exist. Because at the end of the day, whose streets are these? Our streets. Our communities will continue to show up to ensure that the policy that is implemented is the strongest. And I'll just end with, we remember what each council member has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Are you Hector?
Yeah.
Okay, Hector, followed by Fariv, followed by Sean. Welcome, Hector.
Yes, no. Hello, hi, my name is Hector Hernandez. I'm a resident. So I'm just speaking on behalf of myself. I'm an immigrant, and my family is who's also an immigrant. I'm not the best speaker. But yes, I've noticed that my dad, my family, we have a lot of fear right now, especially I've noticed my dad's also a teacher, and he's also fear among the students as well, and the families, and the parents, of them getting deported, and the parents getting deported, and just the fear of, like say if they're sick, have fear of going to the hospital, or going to a restaurant, or going to a park ride. They have this constant fear of, unfortunately, living here in the community. You expect them to feel safe, right, in the community, but because of what's happening and what's been happening, not only just with under President Trump, but under past presidents, that they have this fear of like going out or being taken, right? So I want to tell the city council member to actually pass the memo, pass the policy to actually protect the community, right? And do it tonight, because I know this is a week, but we need to pass it, but we need to continue supporting the community and really protecting our immigrants, because, I saw working outside, I saw the flags of the different countries, and I see the council members and I see the residents here in the city council, and, we want to celebrate, celebrate immigrants, and, there's always holidays and other stuff, but then when the immigrants need us and asking for the help from our council members and the politicians, they turn, unfortunately, it seems like they're going to turn our back on us, and we don't want that. We want them to support us and for us to feel really supporting the community.
Thank you, Hector. So we have Fariv, Sean, and Jeremy. Are you Farif? Sean? You? Oh, Farif? Oh, very good, thank you. Welcome, Farif.
My name is Fareed with a D, Fino.
Sorry, I have a V on the card.
I'm
Sorry.
a first-generation U.S. citizen, and I'm here today as a concerned community member, but more as a concerned older brother. You know, I'm fearing the possible instance in which my younger sister has witnessed armed and masked men show up to her elementary school and abduct a classmate's family member, or worse, her classmate themselves. We've seen instances like this. This is not an isolated incident. And earlier today, Immigrations and Custom Enforcement agents were reported to have checked into Regent hotels within and around Santa Clara. This body has proven themselves to be mistrained, unregulated, and an open threat to not just our immigrant and undocumented communities, but to all of us. Their intentions are not evident. Instead of targeting criminals, they go after our friends, their families, our neighbors, shopkeepers, essential workers, and from what's been noticed, anyone who opposes them. Their presence in Santa Clara is much less of a safety initiative from the federal government that it is a show of force and terror. Mayor Gilmore, earlier today you made a statement that ICE isn't planning to conduct their operations in Santa Clara within our communities. We need more reassurance than just this. We need places within Santa Clara where our community members can be guaranteed safety from ICE. I urge the City Council to prohibit the use of any city-owned or controlled land and resources to facilitate immigration staging, surveillance, arrests, deportations, etc., including our public school grounds and parks. Please align your initiatives with the requests of your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Fareed. Thank you. Sean, followed by Jeremy, followed by Mark. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Good evening. My name is Sean Allen. I'm the president of the Silicon Valley NAACP. I've reviewed your chief of police message where he speaks of upholding the principles of our value statement and the Santa Clara way of policing. But his recent comments on cooperating with ICE depending on necessity suggest a loophole that the NAACP cannot accept. Under the California Values Act, we spoke to that earlier today, there is no such thing as a necessity or necessary cooperation for civil immigration enforcement. It is a violation of our own state law. This weekend, Santa Clara hosts Super Bowl 60. This city has gained tremendously off the talent of predominantly black and brown athletes. We will not allow this city to profit from their labor on the field while local police coordinate with federal agencies that the National NAACP Dry Ice campaign is stood up against. This is weaponized action by the ICE. You cannot take the profit from black excellence and pay it back to the community with terror. We demand a clear commitment to zero ICE collaboration. This is Black History Month, the shortest month of the year, which is not enough recognition for black excellence. You cannot profit from our culture on Sunday and be complicit while we are hunted down like animals on Monday. I appreciate some of the efforts, but I'm a career law enforcement guy, retired. Policies and ordinances are different. So it sounds like a bunch of words and not commitment to actually doing the right thing. You have measures like San Mateo to remove elected officials like they did the sheriff. So I would recommend that you look at that to control your police chief and his mouth, because this community is not going to tolerate any type of supremacist actions by any local authority.
Thank you. All right, Jeremy, followed by Mark, followed by Bavia. Welcome.
Good evening. Jeremy Bruce from Amigos de Guadalupe Center for Justice and Empowerment. We're also part of IPEN. We started engaging with some of the members of the City Council and City staff back in 2025, and this is our third time at Council in a month. These are not normal times, so let's uphold our values and stand up for our most vulnerable neighbors. We urge the Council to stand up for immigrants, not through words, but through policy and action. Passing a strong policy would guarantee that we're ensuring the best public safety for all Santa Clara residents, especially our most vulnerable. We urge the council to pass staff's draft policy and include Vice Mayor Gonzalez and Cox's memo that clearly prohibit local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE. It also invites provisions that foster collaboration with key immigrant rights advocates to create safe side protocols. We need to make sure that we're passing a policy that protects immigrant residents all across Santa Clara, not just around the stadium. We need to look at tonight and beyond, the next 3 years and above. So let's stand up, let's uphold our values and stand up for our most vulnerable neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Next, we have Mark, followed by Bhavya, followed by Bob. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Mark Giroux. I've been living in Santa Clara for about 6 years now and living in the Bay for about 30. And quite frankly, I'm disappointed with the flaccid response I've seen tonight. Honestly, I was shocked when I heard that you guys were trying to sweep any action against ICE under the rug. And if it weren't for Councilmember Park, we wouldn't have come out last week and pressured you guys to actually get off your asses and do something. Mayor Gilmore, you weren't even there. Even what we're talking about right now is not even enough to cover it. We've talked about how law enforcement can't even be bothered to send a representative here today to talk about this. And I have had family hate crimed out of this county. They had to flee to Texas because the county wouldn't do anything to protect them from their neighbors who called them Colombian N-words and would threaten them with violence and would call me the same and threaten me the same when I went to visit them. And they had to sell their house at below market value. And that was apathy from this local government, not the city here, Sunnyvale, but, and that was 2024. That was before this overt fascist aggression we're seeing right now. And so not only do we need to limit federal access to our public properties, we need to have a commitment that law enforcement is going to protect our citizens, not just for protesting, but when they're living their lives here. I mean, people have said 44% of people here are prime targets. And I have no further words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Bhavya, followed by Bob, followed by Wesley B. Welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Bhavya Vyas and I'm 16 years old. However, I am not here today as a junior in high school, but rather as a young woman, the daughter of 2 beautiful Indian immigrants and a person of color living under an illogical administration which decides which humans deserve human rights. I'm sure all of you here have heard. About Renee Good, the woman who was shot 3 times in the face. I'm sure all of you here today have heard about Alex Preddy, who was shot multiple times even after he took his last breath. Maybe you guys have heard about Liam, the preschooler who was sent to a detention camp in Texas. Honestly, I am terrified, I am disgusted, and I am angry. How were they all criminals? How is a 5-year-old a quote-unquote illegal alien? And what am I supposed to do when ICE agents come here to California, to my city, and target the people I love most? These are the questions I ask myself daily. The national administration says it's complicated. They say we must follow the law and that there are costs to safety and that we must put a stop to those who are not in order. But what type of order diminishes all human decency? This is why I am here, speaking no matter how anxious I might be, currently shaking up here. I'm here today to urge you all to do what is right and to pass this resolution. I am here today for all of those who have been persecuted and marginalized in the name of law, and I want all of you here to make the correct decision. Make the decision that doesn't force children like me to live in fear and paranoia every single day. If it comes down to it, if ICE agents show up to the Super Bowl, we cannot cooperate with ICE. I am young, however, I will not be ignorant. And we pledge to these 6 words today, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bavia. Nice job. Bob, followed by Wesley, followed by Riley. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you for your time. I'm an East Side Santa Clara resident. I've lived here my whole entire life. I've attended 3 public schools, went to Scott Lane, went to Cabrillo, went to Wilcox. My parents were both immigrants that came here. I'm a first-gen scholar. I was a student of Miss Hardy at Wilcox High School. I used to work with Kelly Cox at UFC Gym, and I'm a community organizer. I am Purepecha blood. I grew up living in fear that any little traffic stop would end up with my parents being deported. I grew up in fear that my peers will be taken from me when we're just trying to go to school. And what I'm here to say is that we are just scared of the potential risks that ICE imposes on our community, right? Customs, border protection, however the fuck they want to sugarcoat it, it's all the same. I'm sorry for my language, I'm just very passionate. We should know how to protect and when to attack, when to defend. ICE needs to stay out of here. We need to stay here. We live, we hold this space, and I stand here before y'all as a living testament. I made it out the hood. I went to school, and I'm here to represent my people. I'm fortunate enough to be the last of a dying breed. I can speak and read and write in both languages. We need assistance through non-cooperation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Wesley, followed by Riley, followed by Lucilia.
Hello, Santa Clara City Council. My name is Wesley Brock. I'm here today to voice my support for this measure. The Trump administration is currently being sued by several immigrants with the assistance of the ACLU due to terrible treatment within ICE facilities. The immigrants did not receive proper medical treatment and experienced inhumane conditions within ICE facilities. In 2025, there were a total of 32 immigrants that died in ICE custody. One of these was Ishmael Ayala Uraib. Ishmael was a DACA recipient whose request to continue to stay in the U.S. was denied. In 2025, he was taken to the privately run GEO facility in Adelanto, California, and died due to not receiving proper medical treatment. Passing the staff policy and the vice mayor policy is the bare minimum to protect the most vulnerable within our communities. I hope you choose to stand on the side of humanity. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wesley. All right, we have Riley, followed by Lucilia, followed by Elsa. Welcome.
All right. We've all seen this story before. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the unions, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. These immortal words, spoken by German pastor Martin Niemöller in 1946, after the Nazi regime torched German democracy and butchered over 12 million of its own citizens to gain political power. Standards estimate about the power and destructive nature of authoritarian regimes throughout history. And while we discuss procedure and delegated powers, people are being murdered on the streets by thugs hired by a man who praised Hitler for his ability to inspire loyalty among his generals. This is not about procedure. This isn't about immigration. Heck, it's barely about the Constitution itself. This is about right and wrong. If this council is unwilling to take action against the new Gestapo now, how can this city have confidence that we'll take action when they inevitably come for us next? Because they always come for you next. Protect the people of the city and stand with the millions of people protesting worldwide to stop the establishment of a new fascist regime. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Riley. Okay, next we have Lucilia, followed by Elsia, followed by Batman.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lucila Ortiz. I'm here on behalf of Working Partnerships and also as a member of IPEN. And first, I want to clarify 2 different points. I want to make sure that you all know that the labor movement reached out months ago to discuss the labor and community concerns with regards to the Super Bowl. and those outreaches were ignored, and that's what led us to this timeline that we have right now. And also want to clarify that what we're asking about today is not just about the Super Bowl. The community needs protection regardless of whether this event happens in here or not. Also, though, want to make sure that I do give thanks to you all, first of all, especially Councilmember Park, for bringing us here, making sure that you're hearing our concerns and bringing, this action here today. And also to staff, because although they did not respond the first time, they did this time, and that was in a compressed timeline. And so I do want to acknowledge that, and I want to thank them for their work that they did here. We stand in support of the recommendations that are before you. And also, we have spoken to Councilmember Cox and Vice Mayor Gonzalez, and wholeheartedly agree with the recommendations that they have put up as well. Lastly, I want to make sure that I tell you that these are common sense policies that protect not just the community, but they also protect the city itself from these unconstitutional actions. And quite honestly, without these, what you would be doing is hosting a party for the rich at the expense of the poor. Lastly, this is a sign that my daughter, who's 7 years old, created in here. When she's asking about these things because she happens to be the daughter of an immigrant. I don't have the luxury of telling her, I can't talk about this today. Let me form the perfect response for you to have in here. I have to tell her, and I have to make sure that she knows which are the law enforcement agencies that she can call upon when she's in danger, and which ones she needs to stay.
Thank you, Lucia. Elisa? I got it right, followed by Batman, followed by Teamy. Welcome.
Before Bad Bunny performs at halftime, Green Day is opening the show. So I'm asking you not to be an American idiot. We don't want a nation under this new mania, and can you hear the sound of hysteria? We are hearing and seeing it in Minneapolis and all across the alien nation, where Donald Trump and Kristi Noem are clearly telling us everything isn't meant to be okay. But you have the opportunity to change that, not only in our city, but all over, as Television Dreams of Tomorrow will be focused on the Super Bowl. We are the host city, not San Francisco or San Jose, but Santa Clara. We're not the ones who are meant to follow. We're meant to be a leading voice in this fight. I know you have some fears around this policy, but people are afraid too. People are afraid of being disappeared from their home, of being detained while at immigration court hearings, of being attacked in the street for exercising their First Amendment rights. I know that federal authorities and the NFL have convinced you there will not be abnormal ICE presence there. So by that logic, you have no reason not to accept this policy. But I don't believe that these authorities are telling the truth. We know this administration lies. We see it right in front of our eyes. Noem previously said that ICE would be all over the Super Bowl. They are supposed to require judicial warrants, but they openly are not. And even if they are telling the truth, and this is largely symbolic, symbols matter. I know this was rushed, but you had 3 years to work on putting this together. It's your own failure to act that makes this so rushed. People around the country think this game is happening in San Francisco or San Jose, but you can help fix that misconception. If you take action, we can draw positive attention to our city. Please support your community and take attention away from San Francisco and San Jose, because it's really annoying that people forget that we exist. Thank you.
You're here, thank you. Batman, followed by Teamy, followed by James K. Welcome.
Last time I spoke here, I informed you of your cowardice, and it seems at least a few members of council have taken that to heart, and I can appreciate that. This policy is not perfect. It isn't. Nothing you can do within the next few days will be perfect. The people behind me, the children, the immigrants, the community behind me are not asking you to be perfect. We are asking you to do something. Something to show that you are not complicit in the rapidly increasing odds of a genocide of the American people. We are not asking you to have all the answers right now. We are asking you to act decisively, to show that we are not going to tolerate a genocide of our people. I don't want to see my neighbors, my family, my friends, the 3-year-old boy that I met underneath an overpass be taken and tortured in some far-off facility. I will not stand for that. I will put my body on the line for these people. And the community of Santa Clara wants to know, will you do the same? I am not asking again, I am demanding that you pass this policy. And that whatever problems arise, you fix them afterwards. Now is not the time for talk, now is the time for action. Do something.
Thank you. We can hold our applause, please. Thank you. So next we have Timi, followed by James K., followed by Neil B. Welcome.
I have grown up in a world where I was repeatedly disappointed by so-called leaders who uses vulnerable people as mouthpieces and abandon them. I am once more disappointed again when city, state, and government officials have yet to condemn and isolate immigration enforcement when they have been terrorizing Black and brown communities since their inception. The more I live, the more I realize that the disappointment for most who have come before me is endless. That instead of staying empathetic, willing to learn and question everything, people became dull and accustomed to a cruel world order. So I am here today to demand you to pass this policy and make it impossible for ICE to terrorize our communities further and be part of a movement to drive them out of Bay Area, out of California, and out of all our communities. The choice you make here today and onward will be part of a future that your children and I will have to endure or live in. You might not be here when society looks back to condemn this moment of history, but the youth will be. And I guarantee you one day when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, to calling ICE a terrorist organization that should have never been created, when humanity asks, why did people let this happen? When it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this.
Thank you, Timi. Next, we have James, followed by Neil, followed by Jill N. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is James Kirkstra. I'm a member of Unite Here Local 19. I work at the SAP Center in San Jose, and the city had just passed a policy restricting federal immigration enforcement on city property in early January. In a time of great worry and stress amongst workers and the diverse community in Santa Clara County, San Jose's policy provided me and my community and coworkers with some relief and a feeling that our local government is standing up for us. In the face of ICE terror, I ask you to follow suit and join setting preventative measures in place against ICE, against aggressive enforcement operations. As I see it, and as you should, kicking this can down the road is not an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, James. All right, we have Neil, followed by Jill, followed by Ananya. Welcome.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Neil Beck. I am, too, a member of Unite Here Local 19. I work at Levi Stadium in the Owners Club. The Super Bowl and World Cup relies on thousands of workers. Many of them may be worried about going to work in light of the recent events of ICE inflicting mass terror on entire cities and ruthlessly killing innocent people. Adopting this restriction on ICE activities on city property is an important first step to address community concerns and fears. Please move forward with adopting and implementing this policy. Thank you much for your time and patience.
Thank you, Neil. Next are you Jill? Oh, very good. Jill, followed by Ananya, followed by Louise. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Jill Nelson, MSW and resident of Santa Clara City. I'm one of nearly 3,000 rapid responders in our county who volunteer round the clock as trained legal observers to protect our immigrant neighbors through the local ICE hotline. However, we cannot do this alone. As City Council, you must help protect all of us, including visitors for the Super Bowl and World Cup games, by implementing clear policy that prohibits local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE unless required by a valid judicial warrant or court order. We appreciate the staff's current draft outlining ICE-free zones and multilingual public know your rights resources, but more support is needed. You must prohibit ICE from accessing city data like the automated license plate readers, sharing resident information, identifying information, or immigration status, and deny the use of any city-owned land for staging, surveillance, arrests, or deportations. In the past 7 months, ICE has killed 9 people in public and 35 people in their concentration camps that we know of. They are a domestic terrorist organization being wielded by an authoritarian administration who are actively destroying our democracy and civil liberties. Rapid responders are doing our part to protect our neighbors. Now it is your responsibility to protect all of us. Refusing to cooperate with ICE will show our community they can trust the local government to prioritize the safety and rights of all families. Earn our trust by passing this robust anti-ICE policy. I disagree with the folks who said that this is too rushed. The city attorney, as well as Councilperson Hardy, as we see what's been happening in the last few days,
Thank you. All right, next we have Ananya, followed by Louise, followed by Larissa. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Ananya Ravlani, and I'm a sophomore in high school. But just like every other American, when I wake up and I check the news, I feel dread about what ICE and the current administration has done now. I urge that we need to take action and protect our majority immigrant community, because I don't want to go to school feeling unsafe, being brown-skinned, and being the daughter of 2 immigrants. If what everyone who came before me had said isn't enough, let's look at some cold, hard statistics. Before Trump took office, the ICE enforcement agency officers had to take a mandatory 5-week program to be trained to even go out on the streets. Once Trump took office, that training period reduced drastically to the amount of ICE officers has increased by 120%, and these people aren't even trained. They are going out into streets and committing atrocities against American citizens. But then, along with this, Trump, in the year of 2025, under the Trump administration, there were almost 2.5 million deportations. Compare that to Obama. In over 8 years, there were 3 million deportations. So how many more people is Trump going to deport? You need to take action to keep the California community safe. California has been a state that has been known for its safety. So if you don't take action to keep it safe, then what are you doing? A country that has been built by immigrants is not safe for immigrants anymore. So unless you take action and protect the people in this community and this society, then you are not making the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Louise, followed by Larissa, followed by Elizabeth. Welcome.
Thank you. Evening. Louise Auerhahn. I live in San Jose. My wife works here in Santa Clara, and she is the daughter of 2 refugees. First, I want to thank the City Council and staff for your quick action since last week, and to urge you to immediately tonight pass the draft policy with the addition of the memo from Vice Mayor Gonzalez and Councilmember Cox. ICE is not engaged in public safety. ICE is not engaged in law enforcement. ICE is a violent criminal gang engaged in organized terrorism. And I realize this is hard to wrap our arms around for those of us who aren't in the middle of it. So I want to read an account from someone who lives in Minneapolis. People were jumping into action here starting in December. Why? Because we saw brown and black neighbors being dragged from their cars, dragged from their homes, stalked, terrorized, kidnapped, without the shadow of due process or legal oversight. Increased deportations would be bad enough, but that's not what we were seeing. We were seeing anonymous masked thugs abducting people and disappearing them. We were seeing a secret police with blanket immunity. We were seeing a complete breakdown of the rule of law. We were seeing an authoritarian police state in formation. And we were expected not to care because it was targeting dark-skinned people. We need to care. For City Council tonight, I urge you to act with all the powers that you do have. And for our Congress members, I urge all of us to send a message to Congress, to our members, to our representatives, abolish ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Next, we have Larissa, followed by Elizabeth, followed by John H. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me today. My name is Larissa Bitterly, and I'm here as a resident of San Jose and as a daughter to 2 immigrants and a sister to 2 immigrants. I was born in the Bay Area and I grew up in San Jose. All my life, I have known diversity, but this diversity is being threatened by ICE. I shouldn't know your constituents who have been brutalized and torn from their families, but I do. We need action, we need funding, and we need sanctuary. As someone that doesn't work in the government, and as someone with a full-time job, I can give as many resources as I can to my community, going door to door, in the rain, in the heat. On my days off, I can stand in front of as many cars as I can to protect fellow protesters, community members, people who are much younger than I am. But that won't be enough because I don't have the ability to pass policies, but you do. If I get hit by a car when I'm volunteering as a safety marshal at an anti-ICE protest, if I get hit by a rubber bullet, who's going to tell my parents? Why should that ever be something that crosses my mind when I'm standing up for basic human rights and dignity? We need this policy, and we need continuous policy and continuous legal action against ICE to protect those that live and that work in this city. I'm asking you to pass this policy and to protect this diverse community that I grew up in. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. So we have Elizabeth, followed by John H., followed by Sarah. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Thank you. It's so extremely important that we pass the policy that was directed by Vice Mayor Gonzalez and the memo by Kelly Cox. It's important that we take action now and we have these statements because we cannot trust this federal administration. They have been known to lie. And so, I wish, along with probably so many other people, that there won't be a huge ICE turnout and that we will be safe. That's the top thing that most people want. But as a Black and Latina woman, I can't just have wishful thinking. I need my government to take action in order to protect us. And what you were saying, Mayor Gilmore, about what San Jose had passed, and San Jose being a larger city, and Santa Clara passing a similar policy in tandem, it does show a united effort and united strength, and that's what we definitely are going to need. And so, as a Black and Latino woman and the daughter of an immigrant, my whole existence in this country, in this community, laws have been the only thing that have been used to help protect us. But I know that they're not perfect, but it's still so important that you're able to have a policy and show to the broader community that these are the values that we stand for. We stand for protecting immigrants. We stand for protecting citizens. We stand for protecting Black, Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, white, everyone. So please take this moment to pass this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. John, followed by Sarah, followed by LaDonna. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Mayor Gilmore and City Council. The proposed measures do not differentiate at all between lawful immigrants and unlawful ones. The first group respects our laws, whereas the second group has been blatantly disregarding our laws. When my mother immigrated to America in the 1950s, she was required to have a medical examination in Dublin, Ireland, and have a relative in America financially guarantee that she would not become a public charge. In other words, there is a right and proper way to come into our nation, and then there is the illegal, anarchistic way. Unlawful immigration reduces wages, increases housing costs, causes longer lines at the ER in the hospital, and leads to more crowded classrooms. Finally, I'm also concerned that a lack of a robust cooperation between our city and all of the federal law enforcement agencies, and we're working with a lot of them already in the Super Bowl, increases the risks of an unapprehended, unlawful alien committing a crime at the Super Bowl or the World Cup. So I wanted to give you that side of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, John. No, please stop. Please stop. He's allowed, anybody can, excuse me, I would like people to feel comfortable to be able to come up and speak their piece. So please, let's respect everyone's ability to be able to come up and feel comfortable talking to the city council. Thank you. Yes, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Julian, Financial Secretary Treasurer with Unite Here Local 19. And I'm proud to represent Santa Clara workers, including many workers at Levi's Stadium and at the Convention Center. Recent events in cities across the country have proved countless examples of ICE's masked agents detaining people regardless of immigration status. While they have generally targeted people of color, the killings in Minnesota have demonstrated that their terror is indiscriminate. It is clear that ICE has been using immigration enforcement as a guise for inflicting violence and chaos on communities. And I ask that Santa Clara not let our communities fall victim. The Super Bowl and upcoming World Cup is meant to be an exciting time of pride for the city, for its workers, and the many visiting and local attendees. And now is a key opportunity for the city to take the lead in protecting our community and preventing ICE from using this event as a target for their mass terror. Our members of Unite Here Local 19 who live and work in Santa Clara are counting on you to take a clear stand on this particular issue, and we urge you to adopt the policy 56 tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Second call for LaDonna, and then Jackie, and then June Z. Any of those three here? Please come forward. Yes.
Good evening. My name is June Zhao, and I'm a Cupertino resident who spends time in Santa Clara pretty often. I'm also a member of SEIU 521 and of Bay Resistance Silicon Valley, speaking as an individual. So I speak in support of adopting draft policy 056, as well as the additions from the memo authored by Vice Mayor Gonzalez and Councilmember Cox. I'm also in favor of measures to pause the operation of automatic license plate readers in the city. I echo the concerns regarding the dangers of mass surveillance of our community members, and the consequences are dire when that data gets leaked and bad actors get their hands on them. Despite the DHS claiming that no ICE activities will take place at the Super Bowl on Sunday, we can't trust them at face value, right? We've seen the ways that this administration lies and distorts the truth. We must take as much precaution as we can for our communities. Time is ticking. You must take a side in this situation. To remain neutral or to take no action is effectively collaborating with this fascist administration. So, yeah, consider what legacy you want to have in your name. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you Jackie? It's Jaki. Am I saying it wrong? Oh, it's, okay. So, okay, please come forward. That's what I had. Okay, Jati.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Thank you. It was written down wrong, so apologize for that. Can I just say followed by Ariel and followed by Danny? Go ahead, please.
ICE is an existential threat to our community. You should understand that if ICE attacks here, like they attacked Minneapolis, terrorizing our community, it's going to be bad for everyone. You must do everything in your power to protect our community. This policy is the bare minimum. It's not gonna stop ICE kidnapping and murdering people, preventing them from using city parking lots. Wow, what a bold move. ICE must be quaking in their boots. Come on, you're civic leaders. We need you to rise to meet the moment, not lower yourselves to lick the jackboots of fascism. You must follow the example of Santa Clara County Supervisor Otto Lee, who said, if anyone comes into our county masked, spreading terror, breaking laws, or threatening our residents, they will be arrested by sheriff deputies and police officers. That's what we need to do. You've seen what ICE does in Minneapolis. You know better than to pretend this is just immigration enforcement. So don't let us down, goddammit. Also, don't trust DHS when they say there are no planned ICE operations. Dude, were you born yesterday? They're lying! I'm 21, and it's obvious to me that this fascist government is lying. How can you be so old and so naive? Fuck ICE! Chinga la migra!
Thank you. All right, next we have Ariel, followed by Danny, followed by Huey. Hugh.
Well, it's hard to follow.
That's a hard act to follow, I think so. Okay.
This is an American flag, as I'm sure you all know, and this is a handful of red cards. These are Know Your Rights cards for people that are targeted by immigration enforcement. Now, in an actually free society, these two things should not coexist. Because if we were actually in a free society right now, I would not feel the need to have an entire box of these in the trunk of my car at all times to hand out to people as needed. Some of whom are your constituents, by the way. So, my point here is that really, if this means anything to you, pass the resolution that we're talking about here, because your citizens need protection. And, oh, I am so sorry, and you can't hear me, can you? My point here is that ICE is arresting, beating up, shooting, and otherwise abusing people for being journalists, being legal observers, going to school, going to work. And so it's time for all of us to question what legal and normal everyday activity will we be doing when masked secret police come for us. And also, while we're at it, the flock cameras, even if you could guarantee that you weren't sharing data to ICE, there's still no reason for the city government or the police force to know the locations and the movements of law-abiding citizens. End your contract. Thank you. Anyone who wants a red card, find me after.
Thank you. Do we have Danny R. here? Is Danny R. here? Oh, there, followed by Hugh Tran, followed by Sharat. Welcome. And if you wouldn't mind lining up so I know that people are here. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yes, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Danny Razik, and I am only speaking for myself. I currently live in San Jose, California, and I care deeply about my family, friends, and community. I have a core memory from Santa Clara University. A loved one used to take me during winter break to feed the insects and reptiles, and as a child, that's one of the core things that led me to be an educator. Last week, I stood here and I went home and I could not sleep. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't find it in my heart to trust you. The information's hard, the website doesn't make a lot of sense, and it kind of was late. So I also have a prop. In order to sleep, I would put this on and do a 6-minute plank, and I cry and I sweat into this. This is a full-face respirator with chemical cartridges to protect myself from tear gas. Putting this on raises my risk of being shot in the face, and I am so grateful to have the privilege to have this. I can only sleep knowing that I can go into a situation and help people who are injured and need medical treatment and remove them from that situation. But every time I do that means an ICE agent is going to realize what I am doing and put me at greater risk of being shot in the face. There is so much we could do, and none of us know exactly what's going to happen. So please, do your best, and then we'll fix it and do it better for the next event. Please, I don't want to come here with stories of what I did during the Super Bowl to beg you to fix it for the World Cup. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Next, we have Hugh, followed by Sharat, followed by Juritzi.
Good evening, council members. My name is Hui Tran. I'm Executive Director of Siren. A few hours ago, I landed at SJC from a conference of our national partners in Denver, who were all surprised to learn from Batman that Santa Clara has no sanctuary policy. We have seen the statements that ICE isn't coming. This has been reported by media and elected officials. However, what all of this misses is that ICE is already here. The city manager says he is unaware of any immigration enforcement that's been occurring here. Siren is part of the Rapid Response Network. We confirmed an operation as recent as January 20th. If you didn't see it, you aren't trying. ICE has conducted operations in our county since January 2025. These operations have occurred throughout the county and at times have resulted in detainees being brutalized, dragged out of their cars, and hospitalized. We are not immune. This is why your policy must include non-cooperation. Local support for federal agents is a force multiplier. It doesn't matter if all Santa Clara PD does is block the streets or control traffic. That frees up ICE and CBP to do more terror. Your policy must also address data, a new strategic approach being used by the federal government to track people in this country. Regardless of your status, Siren learned this when we blocked the DOJ's efforts to secure California's unredacted voter rolls. In that case, the judge said, quote, "It appears the DOJ is on a nationwide quest to gather the sensitive private information of millions of Americans for use in a centralized federal database. You need to audit your data protocols to determine whether any that you collect is at risk of being taken by the federal government. You also need to review your flock camera protocols." I highlight these issues to show examples of why they are needed, not to say why they are more important than others. We only get minutes. My offer stands to work with you to strengthen your policy. This council went viral for the wrong reasons last week. You have time to course correct.
Thank you. All right, Sarat, followed by, excuse me 1 second, let me just get this correct. Juritzi, followed by Maria R. Welcome.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Sharat Lin. I'm with the Vice President of Human Agenda, which provides pro bono and low bono immigration defense services to our community. The first thing, yeah, is to follow on what Hui just said, that contrary to what the city manager has just said, there is ICE activity. I personally have witnessed ICE activity, first of all, at the ICE app office on Blossom Hill Road in San Jose. They have an office there and I have, you know, immigrants have been asked to report to an appointment, and then they've been taken away. And I've witnessed that, and also at Stanford University Hospital where ICE was detaining a patient. So I urge you to fully support this policy, even though it isn't perfect. But we have to make a stand, and hopefully the best case is that by making a stand, by all of the major cities of Santa Clara County and the Bay Area making a stand, that ICE will not take its action at the Super Bowl. But I want you to think of it this way, that this is the beginning of a process. So in other words, you take a vote today, that's not the end of it, because we need to perfect this, and the legal landscape is going to continue to evolve as the state legislature passes laws, as the county passes ordinances, and so forth. So I urge you to pass this resolution. Also, make a point to the chief of police that we need the Santa Clara Police Department to defend our residents. And I urge you to make this a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Sharat. All right, next, Juritzi, if I said that wrong, I apologize. I'm going to say just a second, followed by Maria R., followed by Katie P., if you wouldn't mind queuing up. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Yuritsi. You were there.
Close.
My name is Yuritsi, and I'm here with Siren. I think I want to tell just a quick story to kind of contextualize the impact of ICE and their history, right, and how they've impacted youth. At Siren, I work with youth, and so I remember being around like 5 or 6 years old and my parents being stopped by police officers during regular traffic, just stop. I don't know if my dad was speeding or whatever, but I immediately was filled with terror. I clearly remember, I have a horrible memory, but I have a very clear memory of this as a 5 or 6 year old, just crying in the car, thinking that my parents were going to be taken away in that moment. I bring this story up not to highlight, at the time, we didn't have the media coverage that we have today, with people being brutally murdered, arrested, brutalized, tortured. I can't imagine what the youth are going through right now, and they are terrorized for a good reason. So many deaths at the hands of ICE, not just this year, but in other administrations. ICE, we need to understand, ICE has always stood for the brutalization of the immigrant community and for Black and brown bodies. We cannot deny that if we actually look at the history, and so we must take action. Take the action that you can right now, and continue to take action, continue to work towards perfection. We will never get there until ICE is abolished, and so we hope for your partnership in these efforts to protect the community, to protect the children, and also their futures. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Maria R., followed by Katie P. Katie? Okay. Followed by Jennifer, followed by Melinda. Welcome, Katie.
Good evening. My name is Katie. I'm from District 6 in Santa Clara, and I'm here with Siren's Youth Liberation Institute. I'm in support of item 2. I want you to think about the families, the students, and workers affected by ICE presence in this city. Think about my brothers, my friends, and my disabled immigrant single mother. ICE is not targeting criminals. They're targeting skin color, and they're targeting language. Our youth group organization fights for immigrant rights, and we are here to voice the youth who care for this issue. Many schools have done walkouts in our country and specifically in our area. 1,000 students walked out of my high school. The Super Bowl is a major concern and the biggest push factor for the walkouts in our local high schools. The youth does not want ICE in our communities. We are willing to leave our lessons to teach our communities that ICE activity is inhumane and unconstitutional. We want security and we want accountability. We urge the City of Santa Clara to urgently pass the staff's draft policy, include Vice Mayor Gonzalez member to protect our immigrant communities before ICE terrorizes the Super Bowl. You have the power to protect the people.
Thank you, Katie. One more call for Maria R. All right, Jennifer, followed by, is Jennifer here? Jennifer? Oh, please come forward. I take it you're Melinda back there. Very good. Followed by T. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you so much. So my name is Jennifer Noble. I am just here tonight as a concerned citizen, and this is the only way that I know how to help right now. I have lived in Santa Clara for 15 years. I am a Mission College alum. My son goes to Wilcox High School. We have had Great America passes for the last 15 years. This is our home. This is all I know living in California. And home should be someplace that you feel safe. And right now, I don't feel safe in my own home. And just to be clear, this isn't just about immigrants in Santa Clara. It's about all of us, because what happens to one of us happens to all of us here in Santa Clara. And I'm here to support my immigrant neighbors. But Renee was out there supporting her immigrant neighbors. And Alex was out there supporting his neighbors. People are being detained and mistreated just for showing up for one another. You have the ability to pass these protections to keep us safe. And I just want you to think about it this way. When a big storm is coming our way, you prepare for the worst, but you hope for the best, right? And I'm telling you right now, I hope this policy doesn't have to be used. I hope it's useless. But we have to do what we can to keep all of us safe. Please keep us safe from this storm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you. Melinda, followed by T, followed by James. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I came before the council last week and requested this meeting and action because there's been no transparency around the Super Bowl and FIFA's security and safety. I understand specifics cannot be shared for security reasons, and I'm okay with that. But the community should have been informed that action and planning had been going on. Now is the time to make a correction and a strong statement. I have two questions for city staff. If the statement and policy were approved tonight, would council, staff, and the community be able to revisit what was approved to fine-tune these documents and get stakeholder and community input to make it a better policy? I'm surprised to see that there are designated free speech zones. Doesn't the Constitution afford us all the right to free speech everywhere? I do not trust ICE, DHS, or our federal government officials and agencies after all we've seen. We need to be prepared in case a rapid change is made and ICE and/or Customs Border Control do make an appearance. Their process has been to show up unannounced. We need to know there's a plan and policy in place to protect us all from the unlawful actions we've seen repeated throughout the country. I appreciate the hard work and speed with which we were able to get here today. Thank you to everyone involved. And in case I wasn't clear, please take action tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. We have next T, followed by James, followed by Sophia. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'd like to echo with the last comment. I think it is not within the authority of a city attorney to adjust free speech zones. I was not aware that the First Amendment is something that actually can be limited to zones. During World War II, the city of Amsterdam burnt their city archive of addresses and names and registries associated with the location of Jewish citizens within the city of Amsterdam. They did this because they knew that the Nazis were going to come, and having an archive of the locations, the addresses of Jewish community members would endanger the members of their community, so they burnt the archive. I bring that up because you are in the situation now where you are choosing to put up license plate cameras and cut contracts with Flock, and a lot of major corporations that have contracts with ICE and with the Defense Department to cooperate with Israel and to create a global dragnet to surveil citizens in order to curtail First Amendment speech, as well as all other efforts to defend human rights, especially at the precipice of a movement for nationalized health care, for abortion rights, for wealth redistribution. Now is not the time to be collecting information about people who registered their dissent with the choices of their municipal, county, and federal governments. I would also like to say we don't trust any police department, and we have been protesting for many years in the streets to defund police departments for similar reasons. So we do not have faith that the police department will act in good faith in trying to deter ICE from their corrupt behaviors. So I urge you in every context available to speak very publicly about resisting funding for institutions designed to limit human rights.
Thank you. Next, we have James, followed by Sophia. Welcome.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor. I thank you for your time and for your patience with me tonight because, in full honesty, I am completely unprepared. I learned about this discussion just over 2 hours ago now. I came to the chambers with my family to observe and to listen, and in listening to the passionate words of our community, I felt it impossible to stay seated. There are no words that I can add to this discussion that haven't already been said by people before me tonight and haven't already been known from just observing what's going on. So I am simply here to add my voice to the chorus. I'll keep it brief. I urge you to pass this resolution. I urge you to vote to protect immigrant families, to keep our city safe, and to stand with our community and add your voice alongside ours. My name is James Ronald Levesque. I'm a resident of Santa Clara. And again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony, James. All right, we have Sophia, and then I'm going to go online. Welcome, Sophia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sophia Yavu. I'm a doctoral candidate in education policy at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. One thing that I'd like to call out is that tonight's conversation among the city council, as well as the city attorney and city manager, very much seemed that tonight was going to be the final conversation around immigrant rights in the city of Santa Clara. One of the things that I'm reminded about every day is that there is no standard definition of morality. And the things that I feel are important may not be the same things that you, and the hesitancy that's been exhibited here tonight shows that we do not align. If you're worried about the optics, think about how poor the national headlines will look. If you're worried about losing contracts, you'll find new ones. You're worried about money, the city will absolutely lose more money by remaining compliant in silence, and we will all make sure of that. I love to remind you that you are in the Bay Area, and that means that we pride diversity within our communities, and we will do a whole lot to protect it. We are going to keep holding you all accountable for this policy and for future policies continuing to protect everyone in this city. Something that stuck with me from last week's meeting was a sentiment that maybe we wouldn't be traumatized like other parts of the country if we as a community just held our head down. But in what world did you think that was going to happen here? We're a community that prides in diversity and is founded in love, and we were going to continue to make sure that we are applying pressure on each and every one of you, that we are all protected every day, way after this Super Bowl. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have several members online that would like to speak, so we're going to start with our online participants. Musa, go ahead, Musa, followed by Goldie. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Musa from the Santa Clara Office of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and we urge you to urgently pass the staff's draft policy and include the memo from Vice Mayor Gonzalez. Across this country, ICE is enacting horrific violence, operating with impunity and with utter disregard for human life and due process, emboldened by the Trump administration. Families are living in abject fear. People are being tortured and dying in ICE custody. Children are being kidnapped. Legal observers are being executed in our streets. This is the national context we are in as Santa Clara prepares to host the Super Bowl, which will come with heightened militarized ICE presence. So we urge you, do not cooperate with ICE. Do not share data with ICE. That means no more flock or automatic license plate readers. Work with local immigrant rights advocates to establish safety protocols and establish ICE-free zones. Do not allow ICE the opportunity to execute more Americans in our streets. For Renee Good, for Alex Preddy, for Keith Porter, for the 30-plus people who died in ICE custody in 2025, for those who have disappeared in the void of these modern-day concentration camps, please commit to protecting our most vulnerable immigrant communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Musa. Goldie, go ahead, Goldie, followed by Elisa.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Awesome, beautiful. My name is Goldie and I'm a rapid responder with the Rapid Response Network. And what we are seeing ICE and Border Patrol do out there on these streets is not only unconstitutional, but vile and inhumane. It's starting to resemble what Palestinians in the West Bank endure on a daily basis under an apartheid regime. ICE has shown we cannot trust them with a constitution, so them saying they won't be present during the Super Bowl brings absolutely no comfort to us. But passing this can. I can't believe we have to come here today and demand the very city that is hosting the potential of widespread violence at the hands of ICE agents keep us safe, but here we are. These Gestapo-sized, foaming at the mouth, trained by Israeli forces, and in many cases, fresh out of Gaza, IDF baby killers are loose on our communities and a threat, and you and I and all of us know it. What we're asking is, are you going to hand them the license to kill and terrorize our communities? Are you going to do the right thing and pass this, potentially securing all of our safety? The world is watching this administration fail this country and giving ICE the green light to terror, and we are hoping that you are with us and pass this to establish and that you hear and stand with your constituents. But I will leave you with this. We will support, protect, and defend our communities by all means necessary, and we will not stand idly by as ICE unalives, terrorizes, and kidnaps our neighbors. So please pass this because we don't want it to look like Minnesota out there, but we will hold the line.
Thank you, Goldie. All right, next we have Elisa, followed by Hansel. Go ahead, Elisa.
Hello, I'm a resident of Santa Clara County, District 5. I urge you to adopt a policy today. We don't need perfection. We need a glimmer of human decency in these trying times. We know local governments can't do much against the feds until it's too late. But would you rather do nothing now, nothing while people die? You must, like all city officials should be doing soon, eventually meet up with Minneapolis officials and ask them to train you on lessons learned. I'm a government employee too. I know these things take a lot of work, but we are not in normal times. You must get this job done now before it's too late. Prioritize your constituents, not economic gains of things like the Super Bowl activities. Whether you need to pass an interim policy, admin policy by staff, you can refine them later. Even if some officials have just recently stated, just kidding, we're not coming, their commander and cowardness is unpredictable. And ICE usually comes to Super Bowls. What's stopping them now? The Fed's actions has led to death. This is literally life or death. Even if ICE doesn't come this week, ICE comes to this area. It's nothing new and we need plans now. People in war-torn countries are watching, as far as Ukraine, and they're asking why government officials are not doing enough to stay politically correct in these times. It's not the time to roll over, turn our backs, and say, don't poke the bear. My family members who live in Minnesota have to go out, purchase diapers and baby formulas for those families that are scared to leave their homes because their skin is darker than ours. Don't put us through that here. Whatever is in your power, policies and laws are baseline, but whatever, do more than what the law affords us. And remember, we the people are afforded free speech and peaceful assembly anywhere we please. Quarantining people into free speech zones is condescending. Thank you.
Thank you, Elisa. Next, we have Hansel, followed by Aiden. Go ahead, Hansel, and mute yourself. There you go.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Hansel Aguilar. I'm a newer resident of District 3 in the city. I'm also a Honduran migrant, and these issues are deeply personal to me. I'm here to urge you to adopt the staff's draft policy and fully incorporate Vice Mayor Gonzalez's memo to protect immigrant communities, not just during the Super Bowl, but beyond it. For immigrant families like my own, safety isn't theoretical. And even when federal officials claim there'll be no ICE presence at major events, we know that ICE has never left this county. So our neighbors continue to be detained, sometimes while complying with the law and attending required court hearings. That reality shapes how families move, work, seek healthcare, and trust government. As a migrant, I know how quickly fear spreads when local protections are unclear. And when local governments draw bright lines, no data sharing, no use of city property, no cooperation with a judicial warrant, communities are safer and trust is stronger. That trust is essential for real public safety. And Santa Clara is hosting a global event, multiple global events, and that comes with a responsibility. Passing a strong enforceable policy now sends a clear message that this city will not allow its resources, land, or technology to be used to harm the very communities that sustain it. Thank you for your leadership and for protecting all who call Santa Clara home.
Thank you, Hansel. Next, we have Aiden, followed by Edward.
Hello, my name is Aiden Sundstrom. I'm a resident of Santa Clara County. I'll keep it brief because I'm just here to mirror what some of our wonderful community members already said. But I'm here today to demand that the City Council take action against any future harassment, terrorism, and destruction of our communities from ICE. I'd just like to share a short story. I personally am a public middle school teacher, and I have personally seen the terror and abuse of ICE that ICE has caused in our communities firsthand. Just weeks ago, I spoke with a student who deals with the daily trauma of not knowing whether or not his father will return home from work. He spoke about being unable to go on their yearly trip to the snow or any family outings because they're afraid to leave their house now. I'd just like to point out that I'm deeply disappointed with some of the cowardice from some of the other council members here today, Councilmember Hardy, as well as our district attorney. Do better. I urge you to do the right thing and protect our community and fight against the continuing spread of fascism and racism in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Aiden. Next, we have Edward, followed by Kimberly. Is Edward still on? Edward?
Yeah, still
Yeah,
here.
go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Go ahead, Edward.
Yeah, I just want to say, my mother was born and raised in Guatemala, and she came to the United States, and she took the legal steps to become a citizen. I just want to say that the media unions, they're gaslighting people. They didn't do this during the Obama and Clinton years when Obama and Clinton used ICE to get people out of the country. And that is very frustrating when you see something like that. And you hear stories about how other countries are emptying out their prisoners into our border that are killing people in this country. We need to save all lives. We got to protect all people. We can't just protect a certain class of people. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Kimberly, go ahead, Kimberly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kimberly Wu. I am a proud daughter of Chinese and Filipino immigrant parents, as well as I'm a community organizer with Siren, which stands for Services, Immigrant Rights, and Education Network. We're also part of the IPEN network. I just want to thank council members for bringing forward this policy today, urgently, before the Super Bowl. And I strongly urge the City of Santa Clara to pass these policies and include the memo to establish further recommendations that clearly prohibit our local law enforcement from cooperating with ICE unless required by law, while also fostering further collaboration with immigrant rights advocates to create safe protocols. I think hearing that some city council members are fearful makes me even more fearful that our electeds are trying to be silent in a moment when our communities are under attack. Our people, our community organizations are on the ground trying to protect each other, and we need our electeds to stand up and do the job that they were literally elected to do to serve our people. So I really encourage you to pass these policies tonight, and even encourage you to muster the bravery and courage to continue passing further protections down the line, because we're not just looking at the Super Bowl for this upcoming Sunday, but we're also looking for how can we pass these policies to protect our communities for the long term. This is not just a one-time incident. This ICE is still, even though ICE has been very prevalent in instilling fear among our communities, and passing these protections would ensure that everybody would have the safety and dignity that we all deserve. So once again, I really encourage you to pass these policies tonight, and I greatly appreciate the council for at least bringing this for a special meeting to actually hear public comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And that's it for our public comment. So I have Councilmember Cox. We're looking for comments and potentially a motion.
Yeah, so I have a few comments, and then I will make a motion on this because it's been 3 hours now, and I don't think that the deliberation piece of this is going to be important to you guys, unless it comes to the outcome that has been so clearly expressed tonight. I do want to flip the script a little bit on you out there, and I hope this doesn't piss everyone off too much. But remember, you put us into our places and you vote. And I'll tell you, most of the time, we have an empty chamber of people. And this pervasiveness of the way we reach decisions isn't about what happened in this moment. It's about what's happening with our sewer contracts and with all of these things. And so I love civic participation. And I'm going to hold the doctoral candidate, to that. Please participate, and participate more often, and participate in the stuff that you don't think matters, because it puts these people on the dais for you. And you have been incredible tonight, and I'm always motivated by community activism. Run for a council seat. Be somebody who's a change maker. We are all part of a massive machine. And sorry, I wish my doctoral cohort was here. I might get credit for this tonight, but the only way to fix a machine is from the inside out to break it. And I think one of the things I really realized tonight is we don't get to do enough in this. I heard repeatedly, we want to make the security of all, make sure that we secure the safety of everyone. We cannot offer that to you tonight. We absolutely cannot. We are in a weird time, and for us to say that, again, would be the worst thing that we could do, because we're going to overcommit and underdeliver. We can put a policy in place, but until the system is changed, this is as good as it's going to get. And we have no power tonight. I think what you'll hopefully see is that you had power, and you came here and you forced action. So do it all the time. Do it in the little things too, so that you don't have to get to this point again. But with that, I will make a motion, because I don't want to be here for another 5 hours. Good luck, though. To take the recommendation of policy 056. I would like to note, Councilmember Gonzalez and I did not really write, this policy was a recommendation given to us by community members. And so we are happy to say that this hopefully vocalized what you needed. Again, I want to make specifically sure that we note that there will be an effort to make sure we engage you, the experts on the field, in this. Yes, there is provisions in both policy 056 and what we had in there, that this is a continuing conversation and that it will be reviewed and looked at for hopefully a better policy coming up in FIFA. So with that, I would like to support 056 with the 3 amended notations as listed in there. And I would like to also just point out, one of the things that I would like to focus on in the review of this is the data issue.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Cox and seconded by Councilmember Chahal. So comments, Councilmember Jane.
So I'm an immigrant. I'm a naturalized U.S. citizen, and I'm really dismayed that this administration is now looking to ignore or even reverse constitutional rights to birthright citizenship, and even to go as far as revoking citizenship of naturalized citizens. Just appalling. This administration has been arresting people simply for expressing their First Amendment rights of free speech, and arresting people without due process, even executing people without due process. The inhumane treatment of people in the detention centers is simply unimaginable. Wes Mukayama talked about the detention of Japanese Americans simply for what they look like and what their ethnic origins are, putting them in literally concentration camps. And as people have expressed, we know that 35 people have died in these detention centers, and 9 people have been killed in public. It's just appalling to me what's happening. The lack of training by ICE officials and so-called police is unacceptable. So I'm glad that we're looking at doing something, but we should be looking at what the San Jose Sharks are doing, and we should be looking at what the city of Chicago is doing. So we can't do that before Super Bowl. We can certainly look at that before FIFA. So that's where I want us to go next. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a policy decision, and we are supporting this. I seconded the motion, basically, but it's much broader than that. As Councilmember Jane mentioned, there are blatant human rights violations happening in the United States. I could never have imagined when I came to the United States in 1995, the country had so much ethics and rights. I could not imagine right now that this is happening in the United States. This is eye-opening, and this is one small step we are taking against ICE remedies. Basically, we are trying to fix that. But with the current administration, there are much broader issues to be fixed. And I'm so concerned because in this country, even the judiciary is appointed by administrations, different administrations, and that being biased, the highest court of this land can be biased, and that does not reflect good, basically. So this is not the last time we'll be, as mentioned, this is not the last time we'll be visiting this thing. We should have enough time to fix or improve not only this policy, but wherever we can protect the human rights of each and every individual. Immigrant, non-immigrant, citizen, a 5-year-old kid, or somebody who is being detained, somebody interned for Japanese interns. We must respect and learn from history. When we lose our freedom, we are not losing just one person's freedom. We are losing the whole system is trying to defeat each one of us. So that freedom, losing our rights, we should not think that, oh, it's not impacting me right now. It's impacting, if the rights are impacting somebody else, they will come to you. You and me will be impacted somewhere or that, sooner or later. They will be impacting all of us. And that's the beauty, like why, like President like Lincoln or President Washington, they set up this Constitution. President Washington, we have that Constitution, and we have fundamental rights as per our Constitution. And when they come into play being violated, it means a lot. It should not be accepted. And it's time for us, all of us, to at least make sure not only this ICE thing, but all the human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of our amendments, they should be respected. And the experience we get from different administrations teach us, okay, what administration has done wrong and what can we fix, basically. We never wanted to have a war with Iraq. Like, that was a blunder. Like, we lost billions and trillions of dollars over there, right? So we learned from it. But how we can fix those things, and this is a basic form of government, at the very lowest form of government. And everything starts from here. All of you are speaking here. We don't have a privilege to speak to the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., but we can hear directly from you all that what we need to fix, basically. And we should be taking action by grassroots support and by coming from grassroots. And I give credit to Councilmember Park for bringing this thing, whether it was the last moment, but I give credit to Councilmember Park for bringing this thing. So much credit to him. And as I just was noting down, I met former Secretary Norm Mineta, and he was telling all these stories about his internship in the Japanese intern camps, basically. If we have a people like Norm Mineta, who could do so much wonders, like he's so well-respected person not only in the Bay Area, but it's the whole of a country. If immigrants can add so much value to the system, they must be respected, they must be taken equal as other citizens of this country, and we have to respect all of that. And with that, I will support this motion, and I would urge that we not only stop over there, but we bring it back if we are having any other suggestions. Please do not stop over here as a resident too. If you need to send us some suggestions, send those suggestions so that we can improve on these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy.
Thank you. I want to make it real clear that who I was referencing was not a government official, but the NFL security director. That was coming directly from the NFL, not any government agency. Also, I will say I taught at Wilcox High School for many years, and we had 52 native languages. It was like teaching at the United Nations, and it was wonderful. And I love that. My one I will also say, I've mentioned before, I go to church in Spanish. Voy a la iglesia en español, 10 años, for the last 10 years. And I talk to people. And my concern is when we operate in fear, we make bad decisions. We cannot be afraid, because when you operate in fear, you have given the power away to someone else to control you. And you can't do that. You have to be strong about your beliefs. I started out in 1992 fighting City Hall over a card room. Didn't feel like they listened, and so we went and gathered enough signatures and overturned that. And you notice there's no card room in town because the majority of people didn't want that. I want to make certain I have no trouble with the policy 056, but when I read these points, it says a clear implementation timeline identifying what can be executed immediately and what can require additional staffing or resources. That isn't for right now. That would be for what we can look at. Guidance on employee training related to staff site protocols and reported procedures. That's down the road. A public speaking summary of lessons learned from Super Bowl operations to inform preparation for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. That's also down the road. So I want to make certain I'm clear on this motion, that it's for the 056 and that we can have our staff, especially our city attorney, look over this to make certain that we are handling it correctly and that we're not overstepping our boundaries, but that we're within that, because these were suggestions. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying they haven't been vetted, and that's my worry.
Just for clarification, does not the motion include those suggestions? Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure that was clear. Thank you. Councilmember Park?
So, I mean, to respond to that, I want to say that operating in fear for many is not a choice. I think that operating in fear for a lot of people is just, that's called how we make it through the day. And again, it's not really even about this policy. I mean, to be honest, people have said this. I think the city attorney said this, which is if people think that this policy is going to protect people against ICE, that's not even what this policy can do. I mean, that's a little bit of the truth, unfortunately. But it's really about coming together as a community to show, to meet all the other people here who feel the same way that you do, to show that we have a lot of support, to make a statement. I've been told many times that, well, we have to be a little bit careful as the host city because what we say will be amplified even more. And I think, well, that's exactly the reason why we need to make a statement. Because if we're not making a statement to be amplified, to go out, then what are we doing here? I mean, it's really about trust. I mean, we've had a lot of members tell us that, well, if ICE isn't coming anyway, then there's no reason not to pass these. And to be honest, we heard from Lucila that it's not even about, even if Super Bowl did not exist, we would need policies like this to keep the community safe. I think she said last time about poking the bear. I mean, I'm sorry, but a lot of us are poking the bear simply by breathing and being here. Like, we're not doing anything to encourage people to come. I made the analogy about the radio, which is radio waves are right here in this room. How do we detect them? We turn on a radio and we hear the radio. The radio didn't cause the radio waves to appear. They were always here. We use the radio to show that they're here. And I think that the things that are going on in the community, they have been here all this time. And for the people that have not been experiencing them, for the people who have not, who think, well, everything's already good, let's not, cause things to be bad, I don't think you actually understand. I don't think you're actually doing the job of representing the people and understanding what people are going through on a daily basis. There were questions about, well, we need to make sure that our hospitals are safe. Hospitals are often private places, but I think this is a big question. What can we do for hospital spaces? I'm really sad that the people in front left. They left, it was getting late. But they actually had a sign that said, I don't know if people saw it, ICE out. I think this is a reference to Bad Bunny. People keep saying that everyone's going to be looking at what City Council is doing. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I think that millions more will be looking at the halftime show. And millions more will be, what happens in this council? I mean, I don't know how many people are going to see it, but I know for certain that millions of people will see and have seen already messages by the halftime act, right? I think that Bunny said in 6 letters, I told a better contemporary story than Ernest Hemingway was given credit for with 6 words. And I think that we need to tell the same story. And we don't tell this story because we necessarily have experienced it ourselves. We tell this story because the people in our community have told us that this is the story that's happening. And if we don't believe the residents, if we're going to, not protect the residents who say that they're feeling, then what is our role as public representatives? I mean, we are not the leaders. We are not the kings and queens of the city, of this county, of any jurisdiction. We are civil servants. And at some point, it is not our job to replace your fears with our confidence. It is for us to understand the fears in the community and address the fears that are there, even if we do not feel them ourselves. In my particular case, I do understand these fears. I have people in my family that are concerned about this, not here in this city, but elsewhere. And I think that at some point, I can tell them like children, oh, don't worry, everything's going to be fine. But they're not children. And at some point, we need to start treating the people around us, treating our citizens, our residents, the people that are asking for help, as if they're not children, taking them seriously in what they're coming to us for. People say that ICE is not here, but we've just heard from people who deal from rapid response. I think that people who don't trust the governments aren't going to call the governments for help. I think they're going to call Siren. They're going to call the organizations that are there to help immigrants run by immigrants. And if we don't believe those organizations, then, I think that's another level of privilege that is bearing this issue. So I don't want to talk too much because I have so much more that I'd like to say for the people that are talking about, well, people are going free. We are letting chaos in the streets. No, I mean, if people know about Blackstone's ratio, it says we would rather that 10 guilty people go free than 1 innocent person suffer. And I don't think people have looked at the reasons for this. I think that John Adams, the reason for this is if we are okay with innocent people suffering, then there is no reason for anyone to be innocent. If there is no advantage for being good, if there is no advantage for us being law-abiding citizens, then at some point there will be fewer law-abiding citizens, right? I have been told we had a meeting yesterday, basically, I think to do PR around why this city should not have a strong message, because we will be inciting violence here. And I fear that too. But what I fear is something happening and us not saying a darn thing. I think that we need to look at the lens of history and say, in this moment, what did we do? People have said, well, all lives. Why are we promoting brown lives and immigrant lives? And I'll tell you why. Because A, somebody said it, we're all in this together. What happens to one happens to all of us. And to be honest, I don't know how many Native Americans there are here, but all of us are immigrants. All of us are immigrants. So I fully support this. I am also going to add, I would like some times that we come back to revisit. I know that we've got them in our minds, but I would like to make sure that the people here and the people outside know when the next meetings are to go over what we learned from the Super Bowl, to go over what we've learned, not just for FIFA, but going forward. I mean, somebody else said this is a long-term issue. This is not about Super Bowl. Super Bowl is the reason that we're bringing it up, but Super Bowl is not the reason that we have to talk about this, right? The reasons that we have to talk about this were brought to this city not by the Super Bowl, but because, our basic values, the makeup of this country is under attack. And if we say nothing, who's going to speak for us later? Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try to keep it short, but basically, I want to thank the public for being here and speaking and really trying to address and trying to push us to do the right thing. I think that sometimes, listening to our constituents is something that's very important. I can tell you that in District 1, we have folks who might be better off and some who are not. I could tell you that there's people that I've talked to who are a little bit afraid, not a little bit, a lot afraid to be in District 1 because of the activity that's really concentrated in that area. So definitely this is something that even though we can't guarantee people's safety, but we could try to move to make sure that we don't use our resources against them. And I want to thank the city staff for trying to get this in front of us as soon as possible. I know that there's a lot on their plates, and as we work to provide the safety for our residents and our visitors, that's something that's important. Our chief of police was at 8 a.m. up in San Francisco, so I know he's working hard to make sure that our residents are safe and that he's going to not only comply, but he's already complying with the California Values Act and the Trust Act that was passed in 2014. So just want to thank the council for supporting this. I know that I would hope to get a unanimous vote. I think we'll get there. It's not perfect. We're moving forward. We're going to be collaborating in the future. This is much more than just the stadium, the event zone, but the city, and it's a regional effort. I think that we support each other, and we need to keep this communication. If it's a new communication that some people find, it's something that we desperately have to make sure that we continue this and improve on this and really move forward to do that. And as far as Native American, I do consider myself Native American. Councilmember Park.
Councilmember Hardy.
Thank you. I just want to, speaking to the motion, ask the city attorney if he is comfortable with what those 3 bullet points from a legal point of view.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
We've been talking about that here with the city manager and how best to kind of translate those items, into the resolution and the policy. And Mayor, if you might, I do have a more specific language to accomplish that so that everyone can hear.
We're not going to be wordsmithing this now, are we?
It's pretty straightforward wordsmithing, Mayor, that helps us really understand the nature of what's being requested. And we are comfortable with these proposed changes.
I just want to make sure the maker of the motion and the second are going to be comfortable with.
That's me too, Madam Mayor. That's why I want to say it out loud. So. Right. First of all, there are a couple changes, both in the resolution and the policy itself. First of all, in the resolution, item 2 of the resolution, which approves the policy, says staff is directed to take such other actions as are necessary to implement the policy. Consulting with the city manager, he's comfortable with adding the word immediately at the end of that. He is okay with proceeding with these things immediately, and in fact, has been staging, the possibility for that while you've been talking. Secondly, we'd like to add a new item 3 to the resolution, that incorporates another one of your items, but with slightly modified language. Staff shall return to council with a report presented at a public meeting with, 1, a summary of lessons learned from Super Bowl operations to inform preparation for the upcoming FIFA World Cup. And I've added some words here. Understanding the need for confidentiality of certain security-related matters. Don't want the impression that it's all, all the lessons are going to be public, but that there will be a public presentation on that. Number 2, based on what I heard, and I believe accepted by the maker of the motion and the second, information regarding data sharing policies. And number 3, opportunities for updates or refinements to the approved policy 056. So I think that incorporates most of it. One other minor change, Madam Mayor, to the policy itself that would implement, in my understanding of bullet 2, guidance on employee training related to safe site protocols and reporting procedures. There is a provision for that in the policy itself. Item B, implementation enforcement, subparagraph 4. It talks about the procedures for city employees reporting things. I would add a provision that says provide training and a procedure for city employees to report, these matters. So I think that incorporates the concepts in your letter. Wanted to make it specific to the resolution and the policy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm going to check with the maker of the motion and the second, if you're okay with that, to include that in the motion.
I am happy to include that in the motion, and I do notice that the recommendation does include the city council statement that I didn't talk about in the motion. That is the text before that shows kind of a uniform council, so I would like to add that as well. Yes, okay with it, and the statement part in the recommendation.
All right, Vice Mayor. It was Councilmember Chahal. Okay. Got that. All right, Councilmember Park. Oh, I'm sorry, City Manager.
Yes, Madam Mayor, Council, a couple quick points of clarification. There was a reference that the policy includes ICE or talks about ICE. I just want to clarify for the record that's not the case. The policy nor the statement refer to immigration. It refers to immigration enforcement. The term ICE is used once within the statement, but simply to refer to the agency. But the prohibitions are really directed toward immigration enforcement because they could occur from any federal agency.
Thank you. Councilmember Park?
Yeah, I was going to mention that, which is the border, but also not just summaries, but the discussion with public. I mean, it sounds like we will come back with a report on what happened, but I think that what happened isn't just going to be told by our security. I think that what happened will be a community experience, and I think that the community should be able to give input on something like that. Also, when we talk about information regarding data sharing policies, somebody asked for, as somebody from IT, I believe this, we need a data policy review, whether it's retention, whether it's sharing, whether it's all these different things, and not now, not here, but I would like, to talk about, maybe I bring this up in another 030, discussion about our policies with possible action on changes to our tools, to our, after review of all our data policies and an understanding of where our data is being used.
Okay. City Manager, your light's still on? Yeah, just one quick reply to that. One, certainly, I think what's envisioned
Mike. Sure, microphone. What is envisioned by staff after any council action tonight? We would engage with the public post-Super Bowl, lessons learned, and bring back what we can bring back publicly, and any confidential lessons learned about security or safety tactics, we would provide those to the City Council. Also, just want to note, in regard to Flock, I understand a request to look into that. Did receive information from the police department that they have checked our system earlier today, and we do not currently, nor have we in the past, shared data with any federal agencies with regard to our license plate reader, but understand the other comments that have been made, but I did want to provide that information because it was provided to me. And then last clarification, it was mentioned that staff said that there have been no ICE enforcements in the Bay Area. Staff and I were responding to a specific question about ICE actions related to Super Bowl events, not any ICE actions in the greater Bay Area or during a time period that's not.
Thank you for saying that. I was going to mention that too, that you said around the Super Bowl events, not the Bay Area. There has been ICE in the Bay Area actions. Thank you for clarifying that. Councilmember Park, is your light still on? Or?
Yes, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and again, we can talk about it later, but the data sharing policies, it's not just about Flock, and even if we do not share information, our information with other agencies, Flock is owned by a company outside of the state. We purchase their equipment and they go through our data. I think whether we share the data or not, the fact that the data that exist outside of our control, that's something that we need to consider. So it's not just about what we do to share the data, it's about how is the data available, how is the data shared, especially if another entity purchases, buys the company that's, or any of the companies, not just Flock, or any of the companies that we work with that collect data. So again, it's a bigger issue than that. I don't want it dismissed with well, we're not doing anything to explicitly share this information. Like, I don't share any of my information with anyone, but Google shares it with a lot of people.
Thank you. I just want to make a couple of comments if everyone's finished. I just returned from the U.S. Conference of Mayors in Washington, D.C. That's why I wasn't here this last week. And the largest, besides housing, the biggest topic of conversation was immigration and immigration enforcement. And we had a presentation from Mayor Frey of Minneapolis, and actually I put it on my social media in case anybody wants to listen to it. But I also talked to other mayors from the Minneapolis area and around the country and heard some pretty disturbing stories about ICE in their communities and some of the really heartbreaking situations that happened to their communities. So I attended sessions on it as well. And, what is important is that the message out there is that, we protect our communities. We have to protect our communities. And I know that the more you speak out, the more you put a target on your back. That's going to happen. I think California already has a huge target in our state. I mean, that's no secret. So I think that, but what's important is that we're all in it together. And I think, I talked about earlier that we're a medium-sized city, but we have big city assets. And so we're similar to, San Jose and some of the bigger communities because you're not seeing some of these smaller communities in the conversation right now, but you hear about Oakland, San Francisco, San Jose, and now Santa Clara. So we're part of the big guys out there right now. And we need to be consistent, with our neighbors because most people don't know where our city limits end and, another city starts. So it's really important. But I know that we have, although we may not have advertised it, but I know our city staff, and I've had conversations as well with the Rapid Response Network. I've been in contact with the Consul General of Mexico, who has offered resources to us in the event we have an ICE incident in Santa Clara. They want to be able to help us. We are, as someone had mentioned earlier, half of our community was born in another country. So this is not, foreign to us. This is our community. And although we're the center of Silicon Valley, we're still a small town in the fact that we know our neighbors, we protect each other. We are a family here in Santa Clara. We're not as big as the big cities, but our Santa Clara family is quite close. And so we have to protect each other, especially in these dark times. And we're very fortunate. We have an excellent police department. We have an excellent fire department. They're very responsive to the community in good ways, not in the bad ways, but in very good ways. So I know I'm supporting this motion. It's a small step, although it's imperfect the way it's written. but I think we're going to have now more time. We need to engage our greater Santa Clara community to perfect, to make it, put our Santa Clara touch on it. Right now, it's really kind of San Jose-ish, but we need to make it ours and own it. So we will do that after Super Bowl. It's been a tough week. It's been a tough 3 years, actually, to put these events together are huge. It's taken a village to do this for us. So ICE is very inconvenient for us. We don't like it. We don't want them. We want them to stay away because it's not in our agenda. But the fact of the matter is they don't look like they're going anywhere. So we have to hit it head on. So thank you all for your support. Thank you for helping us put this together and making it, part of our community. So with that, City Clerk, I'm calling for a vote, please. We have a motion by Vice Mayor, she's not Vice Mayor anymore. Gosh, we changed. Sorry, Albert. Councilmember Cox, and seconded by Councilmember Chahal.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to read the motion back to the maker of the motion. Approve the council statement on Super Bowl safety and affirmation of support for immigrant communities and adopt the resolution and City Council Policy 056 with amendments as noted by the city attorney. Is that correct?
Correct.
Are you okay with that?
Did it have a statement in it?
Yes.
Yes. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Yay. I've been meaning to do this all night. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And with that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.